to excuse Pam King, she is on vacation.
All right, all of you should have received electronically any Friday packets, information that was shared by Jamie. He's here with us again today, but I will distribute it once more. It has SWOT analysis, it has goal categories, school district goals, and then it has a sheet here to focus on goal areas. So I'll distribute that. And all of you should have some energy tools in front of you. If you need, from time to time, please feel free to help yourself. At this point, I'll turn it over to Jamie.
Fantastic. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me back. Had a great time working with you the last time. And really tonight, we got about 2 hours. So really, we're going to kind of stay away from any type of icebreakers and really dive into the meat and bones of what we want to get accomplished today. Last time, we made a lot of headway. I feel like we made a lot of progress. As Bob pointed out, you should have received a document that kind of summarized very nicely the various things that we did last time. We're going to piggyback off of that and really start to sift through it. And hopefully our main objective today is to walk away with 2 to 5 broad goals that you would like to put into place as your goals for this academic year. And realistically, one of the things that we talked about before was the idea that not only are you setting goals for this year, but we always want to be future focused, that what you might put in place is maybe a 2 to maybe 3 to upwards to a 5-year type of plan. One of the things that I would really kind of like to do first of all is just review sort of the process that I laid out for you the last time, just to get everybody back up to speed, refresh our memories of sort of the process that I laid out. One of the things that Bob relayed to me, and I think it's a great idea, sort of foregoing, taking a look at your vision statement. I think that looking at it, there's a lot of elements that I believe still hold true. Through our conversation the last time, I believe that as a group, you sort of have a collective vision of where this district is heading, some of the things that might be on the horizon, some of the things that are outside of your control that are impacting public education today. I will say I'm pretty excited. At the association, we're switching over from PowerPoint, which has just been beaten to death in terms of presentations. We're implementing Prezi, which is a more flash-based presentation, gives a little bit of zip to the presentations themselves. What's nice about it is cloud-based, so I didn't have to bring my computer here today. All I had to do was just send a URL link, and there it is. I forgot, though, how small this screen projects. I am going to go through a little bit relatively quickly in terms of the review, and I'm also going to lead us into sort of the process that we're going to undertake tonight, looking at the development of our goals. So, review of the process. One of the things that I really want to stress is that tonight we have 2 hours, as I already noted. We really want to stay focused. And ultimately, what should be our number one focus at all time? That, of course, is the students that go to this district. Found this nice picture on the internet. Go Spartans. One of the questions that while we're walking through the goal setting process, we want to have in the back of my mind is what we are proposing to put into place in terms of our goals in the best interest of those kids. Not only those kids, but all kids within this district. As a board, we want to take sort of that global approach. We want to have that wide lens on. And one of the things that I'm going to caution you, and I will try to steer us away from it, is that we don't want to get caught up in the weeds. We don't want to get bogged down into the minutia in terms of pinpointing little specifics that we would like to see unfold. Again, really the board's job is to set the direction for the district, to find that area that you believe is in need of improvement. And then from there, create sort of a general, sort of broad statement that leads us into the future. And really where the superintendent is going to pick up is filling in all those little details. Your superintendent, his administrative cabinet, really are the eyes and ears of this district. Part of their responsibility is to bring the inner happenings of the district to your attention. So, the last time we started to talk about goals, one of the things that I cautioned you is that having too many goals, like a big barrel of goals, really deflates your purpose. You're going to get caught spinning your wheels. You're going to spread thin your resources that you have. Therefore, in the goal setting process, as I already alluded to, we want to ensure that the goals that we put in place are the ones of high priority. We also want to ensure that we have the resources capable of implementing, that the goals that we're choosing are realistic, that we have the necessary staff, that we have the training in order to fulfill these. I walked you through the last time sort of what we dubbed the cycle of continuous improvement. And where I said realistically a starting point, if you're looking to revamp your process, and you can really kind of put this into motion, not only this year but next year, is reaffirming your vision and mission. That helps set the structure. The mission defines what is the purpose for our existence, what are we supposed to be doing for the students that reside within this district. Not only that, some districts have that formal vision statement like yours, but where is this district heading to in the future? Because through that goal-setting process, really that's what the board can do. Through your leadership capacity, lead the district to that future, that collective vision. From there, we said it's necessary really to gather pertinent data. And really, you want to tap into the inner resources within the district. A lot of school districts, a lot of boards, I should say, prior to having their goal-setting workshop, will have various presentations where the data is presented to the board. I do caution you that you don't want to get overwhelmed with data because it's very easy to do. That saying of we're data rich but information poor, really you want to be data rich and information rich. And so you want to lean on your administrative staff to really bring to light what is it that the board needs to know in order to make those informed decisions. You don't want to get down into that granular level where you're disaggregating data. You want your administrative staff to be able to do that and say, here are the areas within this specific topic that we believe needs to be focused in upon. Some school districts will have a school improvement team in which it is a committee of the board, and they meet periodically throughout the year, and their sole purpose is to take a look at sort of what are the needs of the district, and they become the advisors to the board to say, through our collective efforts, here are what we believe needs to be addressed, and they help bring that to light for you. From there, once you performed your needs assessment, kind of what we walked through before, where you're doing that SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, but also understanding your threats. Essentially, as I said before, you're looking at the district a mile wide and a mile deep. You want to understand what's ahead of you. What is realistic? What is it that we are attempting to accomplish? Where are our areas that need improvement? And from there, we can begin to set our broad goals and then refine those goals into our main objectives and action plan. Once those have been put into place, it's really incumbent upon the board to monitor those goals throughout the entire school year. I told you before the last time that I was here, I worked with a lot of boards in the field, and I specifically asked them, how much headway did you make in your goals last year? And they'll kind of look down and look off to the side, because many boards will set goals and then they believe, well, I'm done, that's all we need to do. To accomplish real results, it's really incumbent upon the board not only to monitor those goals, getting the feedback from your administrators, but also periodically, if needs to be willing to change course, send in new resources. As I noted before, you don't want to wait to the end of the year to realize, well, 6 months ago, something could have been done, and we could have been making a lot more headway on that specific goal.
Should that be done monthly, quarterly?
That's really up to you and what you feel is necessary. A lot of boards will do it quarterly, some will do it just once. Really, that's a discussion to determine how often do we want to have this reporting. But not only that, you need to ensure that the data is available. In the sense that if you're going to be setting a goal, that's one of the things that you need to be cognizant of, because you want to have your performance indicators, your success indicators. How are we gravitating towards that goal? So you need to have a baseline to be able to measure that success. So if you're going to take into question, a goal, that's a great question to have for your superintendent administrative team to say, here's a goal, what indicators are there that we can use that can be presented to the board in a timely fashion? Last time I said you probably want to have at least 2 different types of data presented, one being leading indicators, the other being your lagging indicators. The leading ones are kind of current, up-to-date sort of data that allows you to gauge where you're specifically at. That allows you to change course. A lagging indicator happens after the fact. You can't change it. That would be like your state assessments. You can't go back and have those kids perform better on that specific state assessment. All you can do is to look at the data to determine, okay, well, what happened here? What measures can we put in place in the future? So those are two types of things that you're gonna wanna have presented. And again, that's a conversation that you have with your superintendent. The process really that I'm outlining for you and what a lot of boards have really begun to develop is a highly collaborative process. That process involves the board, the superintendent, and the administrative cabinet. That's the collaboration that works the best, because if you wanna see real results, then you need to have that in place. But the law says really it's the board's job to set the direction and to set the goals. But a lot of boards, in light of what's happening in education, feel that it's necessary to have that expertise from the inside to help guide you and the decisions that you make. And I'll come back to that. So again, by monitoring, supporting your superintendent, checking in periodically, having those reports, you can make those adjustments and realign resources if needs to be. One of the things that I cautioned you, if a goal is not going according to plan, that you're not seeing the results that you want, don't fall victim to the blame game, because that's very easy to do. It's easy to point the finger and say it's your fault. Realistically, we live in an era of accountability. And instead of pointing the fingers, we want to go back and take a look at, well, what did we put in place? What went wrong? How can we potentially fix this? And again, that's a collaboration between the board, the superintendent, and your administrative staff. So you want to think systemically. Again, the board's job is to look at the district at that global level, and the idea of goal setting is not to happen in one location or one specific classroom or one particular person, but you want to push it through the system itself. And how I equated it to is I took a chapter from the corporate world. And in the corporate world, they have what's called cascading goals. We tweak it a little bit in order to apply it to school districts. And all that simply means, if you take a look up here, the board sets direction through their goals. It's then pushed down to the superintendent and the administrative cabinet. Their job is to then take those goals and begin to focus the lens. What needs to happen? Who's going to do it? When is this going to happen? So they set the objectives, they set the action steps. It's then pushed down to the administrators and supervisors throughout the district. That information is relayed to them. What is their role? Their job is to oversee the implementation. Where most of these goals will occur is at the classroom level. And it's really important that teachers understand what those goals are. I'm a former teacher, and I remember I couldn't tell you in any given year specifically what the goals of the district were. They were never articulated to us. Maybe periodically they were. I remember one year getting called into the superintendent's office and being questioned about literacy and how in social studies literacy was being utilized, because they were trying to identify whether or not there was a need to have literacy incorporated into your core subjects. But that didn't happen until later in the year. You want your teachers to be on par pretty much once these goals are set in stone. You want them to understand, because the idea here is everybody is facing the same direction. You're all marching towards that same goal. Everybody's efforts are aligned, and that's difficult to do if the goals are not pushed systemically throughout the system. And again, all that information should be coming back to you as the board. And again, the question that arose is, how often should we have these types of reports given to us? As often as you deem them necessary. And again, you can kind of see the reporting, how it goes up to the level, all the way to you as the board. So where we're going to start off tonight, and in just a minute here, I'm going to set you guys off to work. And we're actually going to work in very small groups. And one of the things that I'm going to ask eventually is that the folks over here, if it's okay and acceptable, I'm actually going to have you switch over here, because these are stickable, those sticky ones. I'd like to use those bookcases to kind of hang you or work so we can all visually see them and work together. It's kind of hard to do if we're cranking our necks to see behind us. So we don't need to move right now, so let me go through the process. But we did a SWOT analysis, and I had a conversation with Bob. I said, realistically, I'd like to give you about 5, maybe 10 minutes maximum. Now that we've had time to reflect upon the process that was undertaken, we've sort of been able to digest it. Is there anything more that we could add to that maybe we missed the first time around? And if there is, now's the opportunity to do that. From there, what we're going to do is we really want to shore up what exactly are our broad goal categories. On the sheet that was sent to you electronically, I believe that there are 7 of them in total that sort of came out of the, let me just double check here, I take that back, there are 8. goal categories that came out of the last session when I was here. You can keep all 8 if you want to, but you don't have to turn each one of those into a goal set. Now, I do caution you in the sense that if you publish all 8, but you're only using maybe 3 or 4 of them, people in the community might scratch their head and be like, well, there's 8 here, how come you only have 3 goals? But it's fine to have as many goal categories as you need. There may be an instance with these that we can combine some, refine them, but I think it's a good idea that we all come to terms and say, all right, here are the goal categories that we all agree upon. From there, what I'm gonna have you guys do is to get back into your groups, and we're gonna prioritize. Not only that, but we're gonna go through and we're gonna be implanting the information from our SWOT analysis into the broad goal categories that we've come up with. From there, for each goal category, I would like you to go through each one of those issues that you've listed there, and I want you to prioritize them. One meaning within that goal category, you believe that that is the highest priority. Here's the second priority, here's the third priority, so you're gonna be numbering them. You're not gonna see them yet on your sheet because we haven't done it. And again, we're gonna be taking the information and we're gonna be plunking it into the goal categories. From there, the second thing we want to prioritize within the goal categories themselves. Which one of those do you believe, based upon the issues that you've put in there, which ones do you believe to be the highest priority? So for example, you're taking a look and we're going to use all 8, for example, you say, you know what, I believe that safe school climate is the #1 pressing issue for our district. That's the highest, #1. Then you're going to say, based upon the information that we input, fiscal responsibility, I believe that that's going to be our #2, so you're just going to put a #2 next to it. And essentially what we want to do is twofold. #1, we want to identify what are the broad goal categories that you as a board want to focus in on. #2, within that goal category, what are the things that you deem to be the highest priority? Because essentially what's going to happen is, say for example, all of us collectively decide that high academic standards is the #1 pressing issue. We're then going to take that and we're going to turn it into a broad goal statement. And then from there, and I'll explain it in a minute, then the next step of that is to start to target what specifically is the area that needs improvement. There's 2 different ways you can go about doing it. One is, and a lot of districts do this, so I don't want you to think that it's a cop-out, it's really your comfort level. Some districts will just write that broad base goal category, and then they hand it off to the superintendent, and I'll have the superintendent come back to you, not only with the action plan, but with what they deem to be the SMART goal. And the SMART goal is what you are specifically focusing in on in that broad category. Other districts work collaboratively with the superintendent and administrative team, and together they come up with what they're going to focus in on in that SMART goal. And that's really your comfort level. That's the way that you want to go, and that's a conversation that can take place tonight because we are in an open session. So again, I'm going to walk you through all of this as we go through each one of the steps. So again, once we've categorized everything and we've come to an agreement in terms of what the broad goal categories are, we're going to be writing broad statements. And to kind of give you an idea of how this all works, when we're writing the goals, okay? You're going to have your goal statement. Your goal statement basically is describing the goal category. Your goal statement, this is sort of a futuristic statement. It's not based in the current here and now, but based on the future. It's your outcome, it's your desired result. Essentially what you're doing here is you're providing general direction for the district. So to give you an example, and I'll see if I can come up with something off the cuff, and you want to tackle student achievement, a very broad-based goal statement could be something to the effect of, the board is committed to all students graduating from New Hartford, career and college ready, proficient in X, Y, and Z. So again, it's not pinpointing a specific issue, it's very broad, it's very general, but it's letting people know, here's the area that we deem to be important, here is the area that we're going to focus some attention on, and in the future, this is what we would love to see for every single student within the district.
But it's not too broad.
It's not too broad where you're caught into scratching your head saying, what in the world are they trying to get accomplished? You're providing direction for the district, and you're 100% correct. And through the statements, we can determine if it's too specific or too broad, and we can will it down to hopefully a statement that everybody agrees upon. From there, and as I mentioned before, your SMART goal is actually pinpointing an area that needs improvement. So if we're going to use student achievement, you might decide, well, you know what, we're noticing that maybe on a whole, there's a literacy issue. I'm just trying to use very plain and simple examples for you. Within the district, we feel that students, need more literacy efforts. We don't really have a third grade literacy program, and studies have shown that in third grade literacy accounts to success at the high school level. Maybe that's what we want to start targeting in on, and that's really where your SMART goal would be developed. And again, I stress this, that is done a lot of times in collaboration and by advisement from your superintendent and administrative staff. And again, they are the eyes and ears of the district. They're the ones that are in the trenches. These types of things they're probably well aware of. And if you, as a board, at this stage of the game are feeling like, well, I don't believe that we have enough, the data or enough information for us to really hone that in on, that could be something that could be, held off to until later, maybe next year you want to implement that process. Really, it's up to you. From there, once you have your goal statement and your SMART goal, that's really the end of the board's job or responsibility to a certain degree. The writing portion of it. And what I mean by that is then it's handed off to Bob, and it's his job now to take it back to the administrators and its administrative cabinet and say, here's the direction the board has provided for us, here's what we want to focus in on, now let's come up with our action plan. What are our objectives? What do we want to get done? Where is it going to happen? When? Now, to give you a further idea, if you open up your folder for me real quick, I have some things that will help you a little bit later down the road. Again, at the end of today's session, I do have, if you could kindly fill out the evaluation for me again. You already have your nameplate, so you can disregard the yellow form. On the right-hand side, and we're not necessarily going to use these today, but I provide them for examples for you, and then you can kind of take it as is or develop it depending upon your needs. Again, this is another copy of what was sent to you already. The next thing that I'm going to show you right here, Bob drafted these based upon last session. And he said he did share with you, correct, John? And John, just refresh, was it shared with the rest of the board?
No.
Okay, it was not yet. These are not set in stone. This was just Bob reflecting upon the last meeting, trying to provide some examples of specific types of goals. So if we read these, we say, you know what, I really like this, let's go with this, that's fine. If we decide collectively, you know what, this doesn't jive for what we're trying to get accomplished, it's fine to scrap these. He just provided these as an example and nothing more. But again, we can use them if we collectively believe that they are good. When writing the specifics, and again, not that broad general statement that we're going to be working on shortly, but to get down to the nitty-gritty, we often recommend you use the SMART method for writing goals. The acronym SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound. That's what you want to see written in your specific goals. This sheet will help you in drafting those. And again, you can use this as is. If you don't think you like this sheet, further down the road, by all means, find something that works for you. But I've given this to other boards, and they say this is a great thing to have. We're going to use it as is. We're not going to get to this tonight, and again, I'm just providing this as resources for you. When you come to the drafting of your goals document, where you have your input now from your superintendent, here is a template, and again, I stress the word template, that you collectively may want to use. How this simply works, up at the top, you're going to see your goal area. What is it specifically that we're going to focus in on? You're going to notice that district goal number 1, that's your broad goal statement, providing that general direction of what you would like to see happen in the future for the district. Then we come down to the chart. You have your SMART goal. What is the targeted priority that as a district you're working for? The next column, and again this is filled out by your superintendent, what is the action plan? What are the main objectives that we're going to try to reach? Not only that, but you also have to have a conversation with the superintendent The superintendent should be able to provide for you what are realistic benchmarks that we want to hit throughout this year to show that we are making progress towards our stated goals. What is the outcome that we would like to see? And then the last column there are your success indicators. What are you using to measure growth? What specific data points are available? This again should be filled out by the superintendent in consultation with the administrative staff. After this is all completed, that's where it comes back to you as the board. It's presented to you. You would then have an open and honest conversation with one another. If any tweaks would need to be made, you would make those tweaks, and then collaboratively as a board, you would adopt these through a vote.
How many SMART goals do you usually want to see?
Now, again, with SMART goals, you can get crazy, but it really depends upon what you want to target in on and how much time and effort and resources are going to be invested into it. So, again, with the SMART goals, you're really talking maybe, I've seen districts have a list of maybe 4 or 5, but you don't want to overwhelm the superintendent with unrealistic expectations. And again, that's a conversation that needs to happen. If we put into play X, Y, and Z that we would like to see in terms of our SMART goals for that specific category, is that realistic? Do we have the resources? And again, through prioritizing, you might say, well, this is a high priority right here. I think this is the only thing within that goal area that we should focus in on. And again, you might also decide as you're going through this process, well, you know what, this isn't an issue right now, but let's keep it on our radar. Because right now it might not be a problem, but maybe down the road it might develop into something larger. And again, part of the board is to be cognizant of that and to monitor that to see whether or not that holds any validity to it.
What about a time frame? I mean, we're talking it's middle of August, we're gonna get this done today, give it to Bob. Bob has to meet with the administrative staff to come up with some ideas, and then come back to us to discuss it. We're into September, October.
And that's perfect timing.
That's good time, yeah.
Really, September is, a lot of boards meet in the summer just like you are right now. And they're thinking of their action plan. And again, what a lot of boards, have done is they've already cemented their process. So next year, what happens when you come back and you sit down for this goal-setting process, next year it becomes a little bit easier in the sense that you've looked at the process that you believe works best for you, hopefully incorporating the elements that I've outlined for you. So, I would suggest, and again, it's a suggestion, that prior to your workshop of actually setting goals, that you have the data piece come in, that you get an idea of what the district is up against, what kind of standing is the district in, both financially and academically, to help you sort of create that SWOT analysis. Then from there, my suggestion would be you revisit the goals that you put in place this year, and you determine how much progress have we made. Are there things that we can cross off this list because we've achieved that objective? Does this goal area still need attention? If so, where is it? And then you can extend that goal. By next year, you might actually look at the goals you set this year and say, you know what, these are things that we still want to focus in on. We're going to readopt that goal set and maybe elaborate on it a little bit more.
So I would think the SMART goals would change every year. The
They
broad
can.
goals are more likely to stay.
Now, don't get yourself into a trap where you think that a SMART goal has to be a one-year goal. It does not have to be.
Right, but it's more likely that the SMART goals are gonna change
They can, yes.
more than
More than your broad,
keeping
yes.
students college and career ready seems like a pretty
We might get over that.
good.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, questions before I set you guys off to work and provide you with a little bit more direction? All right, what I would like you to do, we have, how many people here today? 9? Perfect. We have, why don't we do 3 groups of 3? I'm going to provide you with one of these flip charts. There's markers on there. Once you get into your group of 3, I would like you to nominate somebody with the best penmanship. If I was in your group, it would not be me, because the way that I write it, slowly, but once I get going, it's all chicken scratch. I want you to revisit your SWOT analysis first. I'm only going to give you about 5, and if we need to extend it a little bit further, we can. Take a look at what we've already generated on your SWOT analysis, having time to reflect and a little bit more time to think. Is there anything else we can add to that? So that's step number 1. So why don't we do this nice and easy? Why don't we do you 3 gentlemen? Actually, let's split up the administrative staff a little bit. I think that would be easier Why don't we have one administrative staff per group? So why don't we take Alan, we'll get Ed, and then Beth. If you guys don't mind working together, and then we can have Bob, we can have James, and we can have Paul. And then we can have John, and we can have, what is this? Did I miss somebody?
Lisa.
Oh, Lisa, I'm sorry, I skipped right over you.
It's okay, I'll go over there.
Okay, all right, so now we have our groups. There should be a marker already out there. I will provide you with your flip chart. I'll give you roughly 5 minutes, but if we need more, I can extend it slightly.
Because I don't. I'm sure you do that. And I can't spell the same word twice the same way.
I'm gonna guess Beth has the best.
I see, that's what I said too.
Girls
and
always
do.
Yeah, it is.
No, I'm lefty, so technically.
Girls always have.
Ah,
So you want us on the other side too, right?
all right.
Do you want us to have another side or?
You don't need to move yet unless you want to.
Okay.
We will eventually get there.
Right, right.
All right, so
We're just reviewing the.
Yeah, right now.
we're gonna review, we're gonna add anything that needs to get added to the SWOT analysis. Maybe something you didn't think of. Mary, this one's for you guys.
Unfortunately, it's very limited.
Jamie.
Yes.
Do the slides with also something at the end. Looks like the continuing.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure, I'm sure. That's just what's kind of- Oh, really? So it says passes.
Okay.
You might want to fix that before you do this. No, Mary.
I put that in there purposely.
You were
So
thinking
you
of
were gonna finish it.
You were thinking of us.
And what are we doing?
Thank you for pointing that out.
No, well, I didn't want to.
What's our first step?
What's our first step?
So the first step is we're revisiting our SWOT analysis.
Yep.
So, you know, so we get an understanding of what's already there. If there's anything else that we want to add that we didn't think of the first time, now's our chance to kind of hash
Put it
that.
on this?
You're gonna put it right on there if you want to. That way we can kind of hang them up there, and then we can go from there.
It's small.
Well, that's the perception.
We are high performing district. But can you always have improvement in your, how we can.
The only thing that I would put is just again,
Somebody out there or
to
something.
continue on the discussion last year, just put that in my report card. 11% in 13 is what we got economically disadvantaged students. 277, 5 years ago was 4, 11, 12 was 8. So we're at 11%. And I just took a look at grades 3 through 8, English language arts and mathematics. And just the first grade 3, 14% of the economically disadvantaged students in 2013 got a 3 or a 4. 43% of the non-economically disadvantaged got a 3 or a 4. And that disparity continues with every single grade.
I would say that that's a national disparity too. It's not.
I would say so. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But the issue is, what's really scary is that we're only at 11%. State average is 48, and we're increasing. If we don't, I think it's a opportunity to get ahead of something that is changing.
I was like, do you want to add like here, because this has good programs right now, there's good students in the middle.
I think we put it, we tried to reflect it. That was really, that's talking about something different.
Oh, I know it is, but I'm just saying as well as economically disadvantaged.
Well, I think we were, I just to expand on this, the diversity of community, because everybody was saying, put that as like the opportunity, and I think that was part of it, the economic.
Yeah, I'm doing, like get ahead of, the opportunities to get ahead of changing demographics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know either. But our scores are gonna come down. Our graduation is gonna.
You know, see, what I was doing, I don't want to.
We have this,
So I'm not sure anything else is.
new schemes.
Yeah, right, no, I got you.
I just.
Okay.
It's not weak.
Yeah.
It's truly that values.
So that is, that's neat. And And that's the highest, right?
That was the lowest.
This is K,
Finals.
and this is K through 12.
What's that graphic?
Can you read it?
Because I know what it says.
Oh, really? You don't like my writing? Okay, John.
I had high expectations. I
Oh.
just assumed it was gonna be big, you know.
It's higher and it's
Oh,
increasing.
bigger than that?
It's kind of why I did the 3-3.
Okay. What
Because
else?
this is also more, like for third grade English language, 9 in 2012 were economically 21 in 2013. Well, there's more. We're adding in the lower grades is where we're really seeing the increase in economically disadvantaged students. I just, every single one, there's nothing, 20 in 2012 for fifth grade English, 30 tested in 2013. 8 in sixth, 25 in 2013.
What is the standard they use for economic
I don't know.
disadvantage?
I don't know. I know it's the, the calculation is based strictly upon the, on the population, so.
Yet
That's
it's
one of our, how do they classify that in our
Yeah,
Oh, and that's the 13.
yeah, that's the 13 and, so some of them change, you know what I mean? Some of them are opposite, but most of them, but in the lower grades, it's especially evident,
Well, the best from the state perspective, economic disadvantage would be reflected in the free and reduced.
Okay.
Yeah.
And has the federal poverty level, it's like a percentage of the federal poverty.
I don't remember this exact
Like,
calculation.
But I also think.
But the numbers are, so, anyway, that's where the big gap is.
Right.
sorry.
That's by grade by.
Matching page.
But you look at the matching page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you printed all the.
We renamed projects now what?
Delta new, isn't it?
There's the 13, that's the
But it's with
latest.
and you.
And you.
But other than that, it looks good to me.
And the other opportunity here is this with the editors. We had for the administrators retreat, we had Elizabeth Crosby, and Alicia Dixon, the IT. Back when we have opportunities in our stop rates. Was around, the preparation for.
Okay.
I think that's something that we should take a look at as well.
Okay.
In our high school.
All right.
Two more minutes be enough time?
Just throw something out there in terms of
Social media.
Effective social media.
And have a increased use.
2 months ago, I was talking about a couple of specific school districts, most of them are in New York City.
Opportunity. I agree.
They have public-private partnerships.
Are
One of the highlights of the.
these new ideas supposed to go out here or just?
Yeah, I was gonna hang them up there. You can write them down. I'm gonna have everybody collaboratively write everything together, so.
That's true.
You can put it up there and then I'll just
They
hang
spoke
up here.
about like saying like a 2-year technology degree.
Yeah.
And the availability of employment with just a 2-year technology degree because
Sorry, we're talking about, just thinking about, like, for example, like a pathway, a non-region pathway.
Yeah.
We're all geared towards, we're talking about college and career ready, are we so geared towards four-year degree opportunities, oh, partnering with 2 years to look for.
And that's a good point, that's what Sheila has.
It's very legitimate.
And that's, that would come under that course, students to at least want to have kind of that pipeline to a 2-year degree versus just always.
Just like not everybody is going to get regions, not everybody is going to get, you have to respect it, there are a wide range of people, and that's part and parcel of identifying economic heterogeneity, everything.
Yep.
Okay, so what do we have right now?
What do you want me to, what do you all want to do?
We're just putting on the, here, on our post,
Alan's
we add
got for
Just whatever you add, correct.
Under opportunities. Alan's got, she does have under a nanometer.
Don't steal our.
Alan.
First off, first. I think we just put first off, and then do last race.
So maybe they draw that culture of safety. Yeah.
They believe it, I guess.
And then the other one, I don't know if we're not just, there's a new bullet that says,
Yeah,
gives
exactly.
The differential,
Okay.
the differential scores between economically disadvantaged and non-disadvantaged.
Can I make a suggestion that instead of saying reduce, I think we need to identify some of those things, because I think
Maybe a lack of appreciation.
virtually every realistic educational reform that we passed 20 years has been reducing.
Breaches of safety
And I don't think that's one of those things that we can, because it's happening as you point out, it's a developing environment, it's not, certainly nothing that, like you to that is dealing with all the
Right.
aspects of it. Different from the way we currently do this.
Don't want to go to the toilet.
It's starting again to identify potential in enterprise.
And you should
It's
care
getting
about
that
it.
emotion, because it may be that, we need to have, I don't know, a division of the counseling department that's geared towards X. It's like, I just,
Yeah, but the opportunities, those are the numbers to decrease if they get them equal, and then how that gets done is good.
Closing the gap.
Closing the gap, yeah.
With instituting interventions, you both, this
Yeah,
brought up
there you go.
intervention for economically disadvantaged.
Okay. And you shouldn't have to.
I think it's hard. It's right. Listed as an opportunity,
But when you're a parent, you do it. You don't have to do it because
So they have to.
not you're told to, but because you know you have to.
Did you guys get all the,
Yeah.
what you wanted to?
Yeah.
I think that's the first. A kid does it. Parent does it. It's a realistic. Oh, yeah. And so then you take on that.
I want to say something about the 2-year degree on it.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, we do.
Focus college, right, on both too. Because it never crossed my mind. You know, I mean,
A lot
that's,
of now, people not having it.
yeah.
Try and finish
You can always go
our
over.
writing in about
Yeah, that's what she
2
was
minutes.
That is.
No, good handwriting.
Yeah.
Better than mine.
I think I didn't know what I did.
That's better than mine. When you were separate to it.
Great.
I think you should underline, use an exclamation point after. Just for effect.
For Billy Priscilla?
Picture in your face. A little splice, right?
Where's the thing? I said, where's this?
All right, so I'll take the sheet and stick it right up there.
Right.
Nice.
Don't get out.
Sorry, I still drop comic boy lines left and right.
It's got the tram stuff
I hear,
all the
I know, everybody does that when I say that.
That is fancy paper. Sticky out
Yes.
already.
That's
our
right.
fancy technology
Right,
here.
nothing but the best farm numbers.
We're paying those dues for something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Dandy little
That's where it goes,
stapler
right there.
and that.
And that right there. All right, if I can encourage you guys to come on over to this side at this point, that way we can kind of go through things.
We did.
I'll just throw you the chair.
We know that it is.
I really like it, so.
Good. I hope at least a handwriting.
Excellent. Now,
Very colorful.
I do see across the board that there are some commonalities that a lot of groups identified. And again, I wanted to give you a little bit more opportunity because the last time you might have said at the end of the end of the session, wow, you know what, this popped into my mind. So this really kind of gave you an opportunity. You can still add things at any point if you say, oh, you know what, this is what we forgot. We're going to start over here with Mary's group. They said opportunities, increased participation of girls in STEM classes. I do like that because a lot of studies show that boys are typically the ones that gravitate towards those specific types of classes. Increased use of social media to improve communication. Just so I'm clear on this, what type of social media is the district currently using? You don't have any?
Email blast.
Website.
Okay, you got
Email blast. we have
email
a
blast.
Communication system, and we have our website.
Okay, you got the website, so you don't have a Facebook or a Twitter or anything of that nature. Okay. A lot of districts have gone to that route. They do, a lot of times they'll have somebody internal communications person that will spearhead that for you. I'm not sure if you have anybody in communications, but that's something you would definitely look at. What are the threats? Change in society toward violence in schools, and that's a huge pressing issue for a lot of districts. Increased use of social media, negatives associated with availability of information, and it can be a distraction for kids. Wholeheartedly agree. Weakness, realistic awareness of safety concerns by faculty, staff, and students. Have you had performed a safety audit? You have. How long ago was that?
I would do it, as the state requires.
As the state requires, food for thought, because it's inside my head. Are you one of the districts that is going to keep your 1,500 students or less? Or do you have more than 1,500? Okay, so you still need the internal auditor.
Yes.
Yes.
State comptroller, if you go to this website, and I could even email it over to you. Your internal auditor is one of their functions. They can test your internal safety controls that you have put in place to see where the breaches are. That's something that realistically, if you put on their plate for the year, they could focus in on. They would work with your audit committee to provide recommendations to the board. So I'm just throwing that out there for food for thought because it's inside my head. Nano Utica, broaden course offerings. Does this community experience, quote unquote, the brain drain? Okay. Nano Utica is one of those things that could potentially have your students stay here by having offerings that focus towards those types of jobs. That could be something that could happen. Closing gap for economically disadvantaged students by identifying targeted interventions. Define college ready for 2- and 4-year degrees. And we have over here strengths, supportive parents, community, value education.
We already had supportive parents, but we added community because there are a number of people, obviously, who do not have children, but they still value education.
Absolutely. I was about to comment about the arrow, the value down. I see what you're doing. Okay. Weakness. Time and elementary level plus.
Time at elementary level plus other grade levels.
Is it just class time?
Time, the prescribed requirements for elementary, that when you want to introduce something like STEAM opportunities for them, or foreign language at the elementary school level, we run into where we don't have enough time to provide that. So time is huge.
Time issues is very crucial, absolutely. Opportunities, nano. It's going to be huge, as Billy Fusillo over there. Delta Nu, just for my own edification, what is Delta Nu? Sounds like
It's a gifted and talented.
A gifted and talented program, excellent. Focus, athletic, performance, and academics. Declining,
Debt service.
declining debt
service,
service.
we'll be able to upgrade our facilities, so take advantage of that, and then focus on athletic performance to align with our academic performance.
Perfect. All right, so these are the ones that we feel that we are going to add to our SWOT analysis. Next step of the process here, we're going to come back to that information, but before we can come back to that information, we got to make sure that we have our broad goal categories more or less kind of set in stone. And so they are listed out on the handout that I provided, and I believe it was also the one that Bob provided for you as well. I have them listed up here. What I would like us to do right now is we're going to go through each one of these and determine if we want to keep it as is. And you know what, I can do this since you guys are turned over there so you don't hurt your necks. I can just wheel this guy right over here. And that way we can kind of see a little bit better. Now, I will say that when Bob emailed me, student achievement was not one of the categories. I added it, specifically why Bob originally had, and I believe that we originally came up with, high academic standards. From my vantage point, you're free to challenge me on this, but from my own perspective, you can have high standards and low academic performance. So although they seem like they go together, in my opinion, they don't. If you believe otherwise, that's fine by me. But taking a look up here, let's start with student achievement first. Number one, do we like this goal category? Number two, do we want to keep it? Do you feel that that is
Be a little bit
sufficient?
more- Can you like explain what you're talking about when you say student achievement?
Student achievement would be the levels at which students are performing. And that would be reflective primarily on things like your state report card, how are they doing in specific classes.
So you want high student achievement?
Absolutely, that's
okay.
what every school district would
Right,
like.
okay.
Absolutely. So, you know, student achievement, if you're gonna be talking about, for example, like Delta Nu, that could fall underneath, you know, that high academic standard, but in the same degree, by taking a look at that, are there opportunities for other students to be involved? What's the process for them getting into it? Do you want to expand it? That type of thing to have students perform at a higher academic level. Another thing that we sort of identified over here was the trying to close the gap between socially, economically disadvantaged students to those who fall on the other side of the spectrum. So that would probably fall underneath student achievement.
No matter how much you want high student achievement, you have a range of students, and we've already addressed it as the middle ground. They can try and try and try, and they will never achieve your high achievement, but depending whose definition you're using.
Absolutely.
A student's middle achievement might be the best he or she could ever achieve, and that's high for them. So I don't know how you wanna say high achievement.
So do we want to add something in there I mean, again, these are just very broad categories. They don't need to focus in on necessarily high student achievement. That could be reflective in your statement, that you know, your broad goal statement.
Well, and the other thing is again, there's 8 there, and you were saying, ideally, we're gonna pare it down. Just because something is important, doesn't need to be a goal with action items under it.
Exactly.
So we all want high student achievement, but is there anything we should be doing?
Well, right now,
Or academic standards, you know?
all we simply want to do right now is just have the wording for the goal categories. And then if, you know, towards the end of this, as we go a little bit more through this process, if there's some that we want to take away from here because we're not going to feasibly make a goal out of it,
Okay.
you know, we can.
Okay.
So again, these aren't set in stones, it's just a category for which we're going to classify the items in which you listed on your SWOT analysis.
I like that, student
Okay,
achievement,
yeah, that's
because,
So we can definitely keep it?
Yep.
yeah,
All right, high academic standards. We like it?
yeah.
Keep it? Sounds good to me. Fiscal responsibility.
Yep.
Like how it's worded? Perfect. See, this is the easy portion of it. Transparent communication.
I think that that's more of a short-term goal. I like it, but it's one of those that, you know, we need to work on, you know, in the short, you know, in the 1 year, 2 year, that may come off in the next, you know, 2 years, you know, but.
That's fine. And again, this might not even, you know, make it to it might fall on the chopping floor, I guess.
And I
Phrase it
wonder
that way.
I wonder if it's really, it should be just communication, would transparency be maybe one of the subtitles, or one, you know, and, you know.
Better communication through social media, maybe that's another one. It should be just maybe communication is the broader category.
And you could, you know, and again, it's really what you feel comfortable with and what you want to put out there. If you decide that, yes, you know, communication is an area that we believe needs to be transmitted into a goal, you might decide, well, let's take this transparent piece, and then when we write our broad goal statement, that word transparency is going to be in there.
Maybe effective communication instead of transparent?
I don't know, I like transparent in some way, whether it's in the statement or whether it's in the definition.
All right, well, let me ask you a question then. When you're talking about communication, with whom are we referring to? Is it the community? Is it internal with staff?
I think everyone.
So it's all.
Students?
Students, everybody, correct?
Yep.
Parents?
But I would say transparency is an important component
I agree.
of effective communication.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I don't
Yes.
think the title should be transparent.
Right.
Okay,
I
yeah.
agree.
Effective.
I agree.
All right, so I'll write this up at top and see how we like it. All right, effective communication could be our goal category.
Sure.
I would agree with that as an initial statement, is that I don't know that effective communication necessarily needs to be a high-level goal category by itself. I feel like it's, and I've been racking my brain to try and think how I would term that, but it's almost part of the school environment and the school's role in the community, and how that all works together. and I'm not, maybe there needs to be a different category of which that is a part, because I can see how different elements of that, how a category like that could encompass some of the other things that we're talking about.
But Beth, and you know,
Yes.
the weaknesses of like four of the weaknesses have something to do with communication. So obviously there's something,
Or it could be, you know, like say for under safe school climate, one of the action items would be effective communication, or under student academic standards,
Well,
effective communication.
and I almost agree that like in the safe school climate, like I feel like you could add another word to describing the school climate that would include that. And I hear what you're saying. Because, like,
Let's
you
stay
want-
focused on this one first before we start dropping
Sorry.
down. So how about we do this? For now, we're kind of torn between effective, possibly dropping transparent, or just keeping communication and just having that be a very broad, open category. And again, that's really all you're doing here is just sort of a wide open category. Because essentially our main goal here and what we're trying to do through this process is basically start from very broad to very specific.
Right.
And so when you're talking about those goal categories, that's up here at this level. You're just basically saying, here is a category, we're gonna classify information into it. From there, we hope to, kind of sift through and pull out what are the important pieces. We can always come back and change this. So let's just leave this one as is, and we'll drop down to safe school climate. Do we like the wording of it? Do we feel it needs to be altered? And again, this is just a broad category. We don't need to be very specific. What are your thoughts?
I like it.
I think it needs to be definitely a broad goal category. I don't know if it needs to be.
And again, some of these might fall under, the editing room floor. And again, we're not married to having all of these, because if we turn every single one of these into gold, you're gonna have too many.
Yeah, we're gonna smart goals out the wazoo.
So again, what we're doing right now is just saying yes or no, whether we like these, if we want to tweak it, and then later we can decide if they're actually going to be transmitted into the goal. All right, technologically advanced schools. Do we like the wording, the verbiage? Do we want to alter it?
I'm a little torn with, actually the last three, but, I mean, because I think they relate to, everything that's above it.
Okay.
Student achievement, high academic standards and those kinds of things. I think maybe athletics needs to be up there, but at the end of the day, technology advanced schools, okay, look, if it makes sense for high academic standards and student achievement, great. Promote extracurricular activities, yeah, sure, that's a deal, but I don't know. Hire and retain high quality personnel, same thing. You're not gonna get, high student achievement without that, so,
Okay. I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I mean, the high academic standards and technologically advanced schools, these can be combined in a sense, because we're talking about nano-Utica. Some of the things that we listed out there was having, sort of that, the STEAM, I guess as you call it here, but, trying to attract more individuals into those specific fields. So again, we're just looking at the verbiage, whether we like it or not, and again, we can always change it further down the road. So do we want to keep it as is, or change it?
I'd drop it.
I'd drop it.
You want to drop it?
Yeah.
Anybody object?
I only think
CJ
Daniel
object.
Utica coming in, that it would be an important focal point for the board to make.
All right, I mean, we can drop it, and if we want to bring it back, we always can.
I would say keep it.
All right, so we got to keep it. Should we vote on it?
Who's on drop? Who's on keep? I can't see, so you have the camera.
All right, so it looks, all right, so we're going to drop it for now. And again,
But it will be a component.
of something.
yes,
It's not included.
and that's what I was just about to, I'm going to cross it and then write.
We just vote for
I'm on it.
Write that down. So what are you writing? Incorporate into board goals. I
Sure.
think. You
All
write
right.
too small.
So we can drop it as a category, and then later on, we can, plunk it into maybe a goal for
For
the other
student achievement,
categories.
whatever the case may be.
Maybe high student achievement, high academic standards, it may fall there, or we may come back and say, you know what, it really doesn't fit there, maybe we should have this come back as a goal statement, and again, we can do that because nothing is set in stone. Promote extracurricular activities, that would encompass sports as well.
I would include that. I would include, I don't know,
In
it's
one.
way too specific
I
to be a
agree.
broad goal. I
Yeah.
think it's something that's a part of student achievement overall, because student achievement is inclusive of things other than academics as well, so I think that it should go somewhere, but
Okay, other thoughts?
Yeah, I agree, it should be more like a subset, like athletics and extracurriculars should be like a subset of student, I don't know what the right word is, like student satisfaction or happiness or overall student.
Quality of life.
Yeah,
Quality
something
of
like
life.
that, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like the overall, the student as a
Yeah.
whole, or something like
Yeah,
that, you
I
know,
don't
Okay.
promote, you know,
Well-rounded
the well-rounded
student.
student,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah, the green team's got it right, you know, I mean, focus athletic performance and academics, you know. it's-
All right, just so I understand for my own clarity, did anybody else have any input onto this before I interject? And all right, so just so I'm clear, are we crossing this out like we did up here and just kind of gonna move it into a different location?
Yes.
All right, so I put my
Okay.
thin line through, and just shorten that up in court. Hire and retain high-quality personnel.
Include it in number 2.
I agree.
So you wanna move that into number 2 as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
But going back, do you guys wanna add something about the
Yeah,
overall
yeah.
student? Do you guys wanna add something? That sort of, that would be the overall top category and have the extracurricular and the athletic underneath it, like we talked about, like, you know, promote the,
High academic standards and well-rounded.
or just
something.
promote,
Well,
you know,
Is that student
Can I,
achievement?
well, that's what I was gonna say, could we, because under, correct me if I'm wrong, but under each goal category, there's a definition. So we could conceivably define, and I'm just throwing, like, student achievement could be, students have the opportunity to achieve academically, athletically, and engage in a wide range of extracurricular activities.
It
How
could
about
be
take
something to
academic
that
out,
effect.
just go high standards, and you can put that in there, you know, when we define it, say high standards. And you can define academics, music, the arts, and athletics
Right.
within the same
High
breath.
educational standards, and that would have been.
Yeah, high
Yeah,
education.
high educational
Yeah.
standards, yeah. there you go.
Okay, so do we wanna
Education.
cross out,
We wanna replace academic with educational.
education?
That's good, Bob, yeah.
I still go back to number 4, I feel like it needs to be, it feels so narrow compared to the other ones. I feel like it could be incorporated into something broader
I
that
think
talks about the role of the school in the community, and it, I can't, I'm sorry, I can't articulate better
I think
than
it's
that.
gonna be a smart goal under every one, like fiscal responsibility under the budget, effectively communicate to the public what the budget is, or.
I know where you're coming from on that, I really do, because I understand exactly where you're coming from. But I agree with Lisa, you know, there are some weaknesses, you know, that, you know, 3 or 4 of them that say, you know, communications issue with, so, I think where I'm struggling with it, like maybe you, I don't know, is that it's a goal, it shouldn't be there, and it probably won't be there in a year or 2, but maybe needs to be there now to address some of the current weaknesses that are perceived.
But
maybe it's something like, I don't know, maybe this is not right, but I can't think of it. Better communication with stakeholders, or maybe something, I don't know, or.
But
Well,
if
why don't you
you,
say like, maybe effective stakeholder engagement, or like stakeholder, you know what I mean, like stakeholder engagement,
But-
and then you could,
but here's where I struggle with it, if you're starting with it as its own category, and then you're gonna break it down, then you're gonna be saying, well, what are you effectively communicating? And that's where then, well, are you effectively communicating budget issues or safety issues? And that's why I think, well, that would end up under safety or under financial without it being its own
I see
category.
what you're
Well, let me ask you a
Yeah.
question. Is it, I'm gonna separate these 2 entities. Is it district-wide, is that the communication issue, or is it the Board of Education communication issues?
I think it's
all of that.
Yeah.
Under the weaknesses, it's, you know, with the community, you know, I mean, just as an example, we all agree that we could have done a better job of communicating Common Core to the community, you know, those kinds of things, so it's all of that.
Okay, so my suggestion here, the next step, because, you know, again, I don't want us to get bogged down just simply on the verbiage, all right? How many of you, if we could just do this by a show of hands, believes that communication needs to be one of the goals that is developed and put into place for this year? How many of you would rank that as a high priority category?
Of those up there, I would, yes.
I mean, yeah, but my point is, I think as we flush it out,
Yes,
we'd be able to cut and paste it into other things.
and you might be able to, because a lot of these items, you might be able to say, you know, bring in that communication piece.
So why don't we go through the process with it as is?
We'll keep
and
it
then
as is, that's my
consolidate it.
suggestion.
What about, Bob mentioned calling it instead of communication, Beth, what about calling it community relations, enhanced community relations? I don't know,
kind of encompasses everybody, students,
Yeah.
teachers.
Yeah,
I mean, as long as students understand community isn't just outside, it's internal also.
Absolutely.
As long as the word community doesn't get confused with just outside the school.
When we talked about social media, we weren't just talking about Facebook or Twitter, right? We were talking about
All right.
website,
Right,
email,
right,
any-
I think once we start defining it.
I think we will. So the next step of the process, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna rewrite these. But while I'm doing this, what I would like you guys next to do is to take the categories that we have now developed. And I want you to take your SWOT analysis plus what we have written up there, and I want you to start plunking them in. Where do you believe they fit? So each one of those items, where would you put it?
I think you want the
All of
schools.
these on here?
Now, what I would like you to do, you can do it on that, but I think it would be better to do it as a group. I would have maybe, I gave you guys the notepads, have that be your scrap paper first.
Right, but we're taking each one of these and putting them in one of those categories. Okay.
Absolutely. And then we can put them on this to kind of display it up here, to kind of get a sense of where we're headed.
Go.
So I'm gonna rewrite these, hopefully nice and large, so everybody can see them.
Okay, so the first one is student achievement.
All right, so let's put a one by one from the
You
student.
got it? Okay.
Yeah, that's what that, I agree.
All right, so one is student achievement.
Oh, my beautiful.
Two equals,
One, two is high education standards.
Sure.
So, if we wanted,
Yeah, everything in our current was under.
Roman numerals like that, then I thought I would just put the Roman numerals
five and six, right,
So
so
student achievement,
that's all we have.
That's all we have?
Yep.
Student achievement.
All right, qualified teachers. Now, I think some of these can be in one and one.
Sure.
I think,
One, two.
I think one and two or one and two.
Yeah.
Actually,
Very nice
Qualified
answer.
teacher center.
I think one.
Okay, yeah, okay, good. Okay, good, all right, okay, so just, you go through it.
Seven, the first seven, I think, are one and two.
Right.
So right now, we only have five.
That is the,
Yeah.
Well, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe community, that's something about.
Oh,
You defined it, you wanted to put it in the
Not being
educational
difficult, you
standards.
can't have everything.
yeah, educational standards, sure. Yep.
STEAM
For
is
seven.
definitely student achievement, right? And also higher educational standards.
Put that other one in, if I'd say that was student achievement too.
Yeah, and then fiscal. I'm gonna go
I think
financial
it's all of them,
stability.
all of them
All of them
except,
are one and
except
two.
actually, all of them, financial stability, yeah, okay, this is all one and two.
Well, financial stability is three.
What else is good for? Wider support students and qualified teachers.
Strong student achievement and high educational standards.
Correct.
So all of them.
Except for financial students.
Which is your side.
But let me tell you something, you could argue that financial stability also.
Well, we're gonna keep
Perception.
student achievement and education standards separate.
Yep.
Not all.
Communication.
Okay.
Mhm.
Use of data to drive improvement efforts. So I guess if that's essay.
I understand that.
Education,
Right.
but I guess you could also say it's part of fiscal.
It's not your
independence.
standards.
Was it good?
Educational standards.
Right.
Student achievement and education.
Right.
So
I think-
then it trickles down. So qualified teachers would be a one, teacher center would be two.
Perception there is.
Dedicated teachers and
That's
seven.
really consistent.
High.
You're putting the initiation needs to be.
We're dedicated to go through student achievement.
Right? Perception is around
Say
giving
that
it
is
participation,
primarily
evaluation,
high
right?
educational.
Right?
And financial.
Communication, or improve use of data to recruit and promote assignment student achievement, correct?
Boom, we don't love that.
Use of data, increase,
Oh, I know.
increase use of data to promote improvement efforts.
Yeah, it's just so funny, I had teachers, so I saw them, I'm like,
Teacher, and staff, everyone.
And if you have students,
I, well, that could also be,
on their high. We agree
teachers
that
understand
students
one
need
thing.
to
Yeah.
choose this week,
Yeah,
and
it's showing
the higher
something
students
they
can
don't
do that.
Right, right.
Because in many ways, those two could go together.
That's true.
Well, I feel like we're gonna need to be careful about the definitions for those, because otherwise it creases, it's gonna be lower than it's gonna be.
Yes.
Teachers understand about, so, you mean the qualifying down, so we're gonna get through teacher staff.
Student G?
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Let's do these first.
Yeah.
Diversity, economically.
Fiscal?
Probably.
Diversity of community is student appreciation.
Communication, absolutely, yes.
Potential further reductions in.
Oh,
student
educational standards.
Sure.
Support our parents.
The student G, you betcha.
Educational standards.
Well, or four. About three, one, two. But I think they're supportive to get high student
Yeah, dude.
When you transfer onto the large sticky pads, I'd like you to rank the items that you've categorized.
We're not gonna
One
do
being
that
the
tonight,
highest.
We're just gonna pick, right? We're not doing that again.
What's that?
We're not taking all our diversity. We're gonna do this as a group, right? Like we compare what's on.
But I want you to rank them first.
Oh.
So
So,
what am I ranking, what am I
Hold on.
ranking here?
what I would like you to do
We're done.
for each
Where's
category.
slow kids?
No, wait and listen.
Each category here
no.
or there?
For each category that we generated, you guys are now, so I'm gonna make sure, because I think a lot of us are maybe doing this wrong here. For each category, we now have 5 categories.
Yes.
You're gonna take the items from your SWOT analysis, and you're gonna sort them into the category you believe it fits best.
Yes.
Right.
Once you have done that, when you transfer over to the sticky pad, no, I'm not gonna ask you to write every single one over again. I would like you to take your 3 to 5 highest priority items. That's what I want you to transfer onto your sticky pad. So student achievement, from that category, what are your top 3 to 5 that you put in there? Rank them, number 1, 2, 3, go up to 5 if it needs to be.
Okay.
Does it say 2?
Okay, potential for, okay, that's 3, potential for reduction, fiscal. I know. Well, also.
It's also communication.
Now he wants us to take. Now for each one of them.
Just gonna talk about 4. I'm sorry, Jamie, now you want us to rank, what do you want us to do?
You want us to put 3 of these under each one of those.
3 to 5 of them, so just take student achievement. Which one of those would you classify under student achievement? And out of the ones that you put underneath there, the ones you're gonna write on there, what are the top 3 to 5 that you believe are the biggest areas of concern?
In student achievement.
Within that student achievement, you go on and do the same thing for high educational standards.
Okay.
All right. 8 things which are understood. So we can't put all
Okay.
of these. Then we take top 3 to 5.
Top 3 to 5, and if you think that there's more in that category, you can make an argument for it, go ahead and add it.
A realistic awareness of the students.
Qualified. Here's the
achieved, he or she achieved middle ground.
Highest student performance high graduation.
That's all the programs are initiatives.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of this we're gonna come together and do together
But is
in
this,
the
is
interest
this,
of
is
time.
this, is this stuff that you wanna see that we think needs work, or that we think
An area-
drives student achievement?
An area you believe needs to be focused in on, as a
In terms
high
of a goal.
priority for the district that you would like to see translated into a goal. Correct.
Qualified teachers. Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Say social media.
What are the main things?
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Well, that's true. Right, right. So, okay, it says few programs or initiatives.
Increase in state funding.
We can highlight what
Here, I'll just search, or just put an essay right over the top. Essay one.
Over here, I like
I don't get out much.
Okay, Roy, G,
You want perception?
first, second, third.
Well, you choose.
Yeah, then.
Alex has the yellow one.
And then you want qualified teachers for sure.
Qualified teachers.
I was just picking the ones that we would like, and then we
Qualified
could,
teachers.
yeah.
Could be a two.
And then we could definitely, economic goals.
Top three are listed at the bottom.
Use of data to drive.
Additional.
Financial stuff.
Data driven.
Data driven, yeah.
Well, it's supposed to be good.
I would say.
I think it's two. I would just think two.
Saying that this is.
Boosting facility.
Not necessarily fiscal, I mean other factors.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering if this is, well, I think of course out.
Maybe just, not really, just to support.
Yeah, well, this would also, yeah, of course, out, there's one, music, the arts, right? Yeah, the student achievement is based on all those things, well-rounded student achievement.
That's true. That's a higher education.
No, I agree with that, but I think that's acquisition.
Okay.
We'll have a
I still,
And I understand the polarization, I don't feel like, I agree with you.
We're not, what do we release?
Is, there's a lot of different.
We don't measure ourselves, we measure ourselves on achievement.
And I'm good, but I'm still good with polarization standards, because I think that goes to.
I'm gonna make an executive decision here, just for the interest of time.
No, we're ready. So that's.
One of the things that I really wanted to do was to give you guys the opportunity to experience and kind of walk through a little bit of the process. But since we only got roughly about 40 minutes left, we're gonna kind of come together now. We're gonna do this together as a group. In the future, realistically, this is a process that you guys could incorporate to flesh out what you believe should be your targeted areas of improvement and specific areas that the district needs to kind of focus in on. So why don't we do this, because again, in the interest of time, I definitely want to walk away having you guys write a few of these down. Let's start off with the category of student achievement.
Oh, we're gonna do this together.
We're gonna do this together, just in the interest of time, because we only got 2 hours and I really want to get as much headway done, headway as possible with you. But in the same degree, I wanted to walk you through sort of the process that a lot of boards undertake, and that's part of it. Just a lot of these flip, charts, putting, the notes up here, coming together. and examining them. But again, since we're running low on time, I made the executive decision, let's just come together and do this. So student achievement. Out of the things that we listed, what do you deem the most important items? High priority items, and it doesn't have to be deemed a negative. Whenever you say high priority, people automatically think negative, but a lot of the stuff that we looked up here is a positive. So what do you think are the most pressing issues under student achievement? We'll come together, we'll write some of them out, and then we'll kind of focus in a little bit more in terms of order of high to low. So what can we put underneath this category? And again, we kind of want to keep it a smaller list, focusing in on the main important items.
Can I take like a minute?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because guys, I did some research, gathering some data, and I believe, and you guys might not believe this, but I believe that our biggest threat and opportunity is the change in our demographics regarding economically disadvantaged students. And I got some numbers just quick for you. In 2011, 2012, 8%, this is all off the NSYED scorecard. In 2011, 2012, we had 8% of our population. In 2012, 2013, we had 11%. 277 students, K through 12, 11% of our population are economically disadvantaged. I'll make my next point real quick. Somebody give me a grade level between 3 and 8 in either math or English.
4.
4? English or math?
Math.
Math. Okay. Economically, and this is a really good one. In 2013, our economically disadvantaged students had a 25% proficiency in 3s or 4s. Our not economically disadvantaged had 43%. Okay, and that's the best gap in the whole bunch. So in other words, almost 50% worse they did. Okay, and for example, in 2013 or 12, there was a 70% and an 84% gap. So anyway, that's what's happening.
Isn't there up there?
It's up there.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, and I'm just putting this to you because I think it's the #1 issue going forward into the future. 5 years ago, we had 4%. Today, we have 11%. And the state average is 48%. And if we are continuing to increase towards that, it's my belief that we have an opportunity to get ahead of that curve, to do what we can to make sure that that disparity that is a national thing, that is a state thing, doesn't get that big. And that we maintain the standards and high performance record of New Hartford by keeping focus on that. So just to me, I think it's a #1 priority that we can look for in the future. That's just me.
All right, so you have a gap of,
All right, so I'm just going to interject real quick, and Ed brings up a valid point in terms of why you should be looking at the data, but to the same degree, we always want to be cautious when looking at the data. We can't look at a specific year. You also have to look at what factors surrounded that year. For example, if you were to look at student scores the year prior to the implementation of the higher Common Core standards and the testing, you would say our kids were doing great. Then if you just looked at it, not understanding that the state's raised the standards, all of a sudden you're going to see a huge dip in it. And you're left scratching, well, something happened here. So again, it's really incumbent upon the board and the superintendent administrative team to kind of dig into that data to provide those answers.
And the gap, it's the gap year to year. It's not year to year comparisons. It's a gap within each year between economically disadvantaged. And all it is a regurgitation of what happens at the national and state level.
So my suggestion would be, and again, what's going to happen here is that if the administration, everybody deems, all right, that there is this gap and it's continuing to widen. In your broad general goal statement for student achievement, you're going to specify something to the effect of all students. And then once you start boiling it down to your SMART goals, that's really where you would start pinpointing,
Right.
For example, here's a targeted area that we know this group of the population needs a little bit more specific attention.
Right.
But that's also going to take looking at the existing programs that you have put in place, the effectiveness of those programs, whether or not they should be extended, if there's other factors that are involved. So it takes a little bit more, but you're 100% right. So do we agree that we want to put that down as one of the high priorities, the gap between high and low economic.
Well, how many are we gonna put down, and then I think once we have them down, we can rank what we have.
Well, again, we're just writing down the ones that you believe are the most pressing.
Well, we can put that up, yeah. put
Okay,
that
we
up.
can put it down there for now, and
Yeah.
that sounds good to me.
I also like the concept of focusing on helping the middle kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
We had the, I guess we smashed two into one, the Nano Utica and the wide range of course offerings and special programs. We talked about, somebody did on one of theirs, but, looking at how we define college ready, 2-year versus 4-year degrees, that's all in that Nano Utica and the course offerings and special programs.
No, the garbage can is missing.
Right, there was one right before the Nana Utica and course offerings. Oh, I'm sorry, John, what did you say?
Helping the middle,
Oh, the middle students, okay.
middle achievers.
You did fine, John.
Yes, we did.
And we have qualified teachers.
All right, so qualified teachers, you want to put that underneath their student achievement?
Not as something that we feel like we don't have qualified
Right.
teachers, but something that just, we always need to make sure that we're recruiting these.
Okay.
It's not a.
Yeah, we're not saying we don't.
Yeah.
have them.
No, and I know exactly what you're saying.
And this one might go to the gap and targeting the middles. We had data-driven instruction.
Increase.
Increase data-driven instruction.
Increase,
To
increase.
drive
use of.
improvement efforts.
All right, so before we jump down to that one, I wrote hire, just meaning hiring highly qualified teachers, but also I added on there professional development
Yeah.
for
Which is like
teachers.
Teacher center and
Teacher center.
Yeah.
So the teacher center would fall under that category. Okay, so that's okay to keep?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure. All right, what was the next one that we had?
Dedicated teachers and staff.
Well, that's all part, that's all part.
Well, I had improved data, or
Oh,
increased data.
increase, okay, that's the one I was looking for.
Instruction. Increased use of data-driven instruction.
Mhm.
Data-driven instruction.
And we were, again, going back to the whole where athletics fit in, whether they were the high educational standards or the student achievement, and really, we were sort of defining student achievement as a holistic student athletic academic. So in that, I would say, what word do you wanna use, but essentially our new AD, the athletic department, all of that goes in there.
But I thought that's part of higher education standards.
I know,
too,
we
Beth.
were like,
All right, well, let me ask you a question here. Do you have a district policy concerning students who play sports? A lot of districts will say if you fall behind,
We don't do that.
so you don't do that at that level.
We believe in keeping them engaged, and we don't have that problem.
Okay, excellent. And that's what, a lot of districts, that, as a matter of fact, are walking away from having those policies because they are. Here's why. If you're a student who struggles to begin with in school and you're playing sports and all of a sudden you're kicked off of the sports team,
Right.
you become disillusioned
Yeah.
and you fall further behind. So some districts are actually dropping that, as a policy. Not all, but it is becoming a little bit more common, and, I was just curious to know if you did have that policy in play or what the philosophy was. So do we want to add something about extracurricular and sports to the overall achievement levels, or do we want to
No,
keep that out for now?
we're putting that in, I thought we thought it was going number 2.
Okay, so we'll plunk that into number 2. Is there something else that you believe to be a high priority item?
Dedicated teachers and staff.
Dedicated teachers and staff. Now, I do have a question for you because I remember it coming up the last time, when it is on our SWOT analysis. Somebody remarked, and I don't know how valid this statement is, but the morale level of the teachers seemed to have decreased as a result of sort of the push of the APPR, also with the Common Core. Is that a concern?
Yeah, I mean, we sort of talked about, sort of, I hate to say Common Core, but just, when you talk about student achievement, we have to talk about Common Core and the new state standards, whether you embrace them or whether you deal with them or whatever you're gonna do, whether it's through students, through teachers, we've gotta you know, everybody be on the same page, I think.
Okay, so the reason why I ask is because we bring up dedicated teachers and staff. The morale issue might be tied to that. So would it be to have a sub-bullet, morale of teachers?
We thought the low morale due to the Common Core. The Common Core is our standards. So that's why we tied them into number 2.
Okay, so we'll tie it into number 2. Okay,
Okay, so you wanna go on number 2, okay.
so we can plunk that into number 2.
Supportive
You have
parents.
to support parents under there as well.
So you, all right, let's put supportive parents.
Now, do we need to work on that?
See, we thought that we were putting in the things that we needed to
Yeah,
work
And now
on.
work on.
yeah, I mean, what are we gonna do?
So what do
Now,
deem
we have
as the top
supportive
3 or
parents.
5?
Now here's why, all right?
Deem the top 3 or 5.
You know, you obviously want your parents to continue lending that support, and given this community, I don't see that, you know, declining anytime in the near future.
I
How
do,
this become, I'm sorry, was that,
I do,
okay,
because we got economically disadvantaged.
so if you do
Demographics
see that,
changing.
you know, if you do see that shift, and again,
That's part of the problem there.
Okay.
Nationally, right?
oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, I think, you know, even if we kept this down more towards the bottom, if you don't believe it to be because it's already there, this could be melded into your overall statement that we're about to draft, because we're gonna do these sort of one at a time and see how far we can progress, but I definitely want you to walk away with at least 1 or 2 goal statements that you believe are a good fit, okay? So now, let's rank these really quickly, let's see if we can do it, if not, you know, that's fine. But again, out of these things, let's start with this one, gap between the economically disadvantaged.
You guys heard my spiel on that. I think it's you know, it hasn't had any focus. I've looked into it. I see that it is the one potential that I see that could have serious impact on the ranking of our school. If it continues in the way it's continuing, and if we don't address it now, and get ahead of it to close that gap, I think it could become a real problem in the next 5 years.
Okay, well, let's get the consensus.
I
Sure.
have one question about that. Does that affect every school? Does that affect all 3 grade schools? It
Yes,
does?
At various levels.
it varies, but it does.
I'm not so sure about
Alan,
these
don't all
over
the-
here.
Yeah, Alan, I remember, don't all the school
That
improvement
affects
plans, all of them target that, don't they? Talking, getting those students?
Well, I think going back to what Jim said, a lot of what they target, it targets all students. So I think, I know, for example, they did, at Miles, they did like a book study on, you know, what types of interventions and what types of strategies to use with economically disadvantaged children.
Yeah, but
So I
all of
know-
our English as second language are sent to Miles.
Right, well, but I think the broader thing is what I'll go back to, what Jim said was encompassing all students so that there's interventions and strategies that are incorporated and infused into those school improvement plans to help meet the needs of all the students, whether they're English language learners, like Paul you're alluding to, or whether it's economically disadvantaged students or other areas of need.
Well, it seems like as you're talking, it seems like you've got, it seems like you can almost put together the economically challenged students, the students that are in the middle, the ones that are not performing at the top. You know, everybody wants their kids to perform at the top, but we've got all these kids for various reasons, whether they're just middle kids, which is fine, or they're economically challenged, or they're ESL. Maybe we just need to target that group of kids as opposed to focusing on all the AP kids.
All right,
And
so
so the
again,
SMART goals become,
this would fall into
that
more
would
of
be
a
a SMART
SMART goal
goal, middle
category.
students would be a
Right.
SMART goal,
We're gonna go
Right.
to the data-driven instruction.
yeah.
Right,
So-
right.
My suggestion, and this is just a suggestion, I think Ed definitely brings up some very valid points. He, you know, he's looked at the data, he has an area of concern. And the thing that, you know, the thing that I always caution is that, you know, and I'm gonna throw this out to the group as a whole, is this something that needs to be looked at a little bit more in depth? And what I mean by that is looking at the existing programs that you already have put in place to see exactly a little bit more statistic-wise, looking at maybe some trend data in the future. Now, this can definitely be on the radar because it's on Ed's radar, and I think that it's now on all of our radar as something that we need to closely monitor. We can incorporate something into this statement, and again, it's going to be a little bit more of a global statement
Right.
in the sense of we want every student to be able to succeed, no matter your socioeconomic background. something of that nature. And then once, because that'll give a little bit more time to invest, and that might actually become, and again, you can lean on your superintendent to check back with him and say, can you give us a little bit more information in terms of what is our current enrollment that we have coming up here, what are the programs that we have, is there sufficient safety nets put in place, and then to listen to to those recommendations. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, it's definitely a smart goal.
All right, perfect. All right, so is there anything on here that you believe does not belong up here or is not quite a pressing issue? And again, I know supportive parents, it's something that you have, but it's good to have in the back of your mind because when you draft this statement, you might want to have something to the effect and acknowledging the support that you have within your community as being an avenue for successful students.
It's good to me.
All right.
Yep.
So instead of ranking these from the highest to lowest, I think that all of us agree that these belong on here, correct? Let's take the next step. The next step now is if you imagine yourself having a magic wand. I hate that phrase, but I use it anyway. It sounds so corny. But if you had a magic wand, you were able to fix each one of these. What is the future hold? What does it look like? And why I bring this up is because in your groups, I want you to draft a very broad, general goal statement for what it is that you are trying to accomplish within the area of student achievement. And again, we want to bring in a lot of these components.
Okay.
So why don't we get together, let's work for about 5-10 minutes, bounce ideas off of one another. How could we draft a goal statement, a broad goal statement? Because that is essentially the work of the board. That's essentially what we're doing tonight, is drafting these statements.
I want to go back to when you first started speaking this evening, way back on at 4 o'clock. And one of your opening statements was paraphrasing portions of our mission statement and our vision statement. So don't we already have what you're looking for on this one somewhere in here?
It may be in there, but you're gonna wanna maybe flush it out a little bit more in the sense that, when you're drafting this, overarching
Or
broad
do we
goal
wanna mark
statement.
up what?
And I was just about to draw your attention to what Bob has already created.
I'm just trying to jot down some.
So you do have an example.
Within the theme.
Bob very skillfully,
Should be in there. For example, improvement. Something about improvement regarding expansion. Something
oh,
regarding.
okay, you didn't have that, okay.
I agree with you, all students, I definitely,
Well, that's the high.
So like.
That's high
Right. Yep.
because this has to be broad.
Right.
Broad statement.
Broad, but that's so broad. People have to understand what direction are we flowing in? With the statement. Right.
But don't then we put our SMART goals then under that?
Absolutely, and those are the ones that are measured. For example, when you think about improvement in there, regarding student achievement.
I don't think that you guys are supposed to have it. I think this is a visionary successful, say, this is what we want to achieve. We don't want to achieve, we want to achieve all students will have access to success.
So it's not that everybody's a trophy bearer.
I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying that will provide access, public world is that's what I think this statement is supposed to say.
Exactly, this statement that you're drafting is a visionary statement,
Right.
your ideal future that encompasses what you're trying to achieve this year, under the category of student achievement. It could be something to the effect of, to the effect of, it's dedicated to developing the whole child, offering, taking advantages of, local opportunities to prepare them for a 21st century, careers, something along those lines. So you kind of want to pull in these elements.
Yes, we did.
Just trying to.
So again, if you like the statement that Bob drafted, there's no reason why we can't use that statement, but it's a good opportunity for us to take a look to see if maybe we can.
But
well,
this
there
is
is
for
one.
high academic standards, isn't it? Or-
Yeah, this is for student achievement.
Exactly, but there may be elements within some of the ones that Bob drafted that you might want to pluck out, is all I'm referring to. Or one as a whole.
Okay, okay.
I'm just spitballing.
That literally is the back of your head. That literally.
Oh, you're going. Is it stuck in my hair?
Yep, maybe.
No.
You are tall.
Something.
Oh. Sometimes I don't know, John, it's a lot of hair.
No, that was academic standards.
Except it's so bad, to make sure all students have access to appropriate
And what do you want to do with those?
Student achievement. That's right. Because it could be nice, it could be the use of.
I'm just talking out loud here. I don't understand that if all three groups come up with a statement, they'll be different, but they're gonna be so similar to each other and to our vision and mission statement. To me, it seems like we're reinventing what's already here. And now we're gonna have another statement for something else for what's already here. I don't understand.
But this is gonna be a goal, and we're gonna put, like, for example, like, okay, John.
All right, here's what we got.
As a whole,
Ready?
the body of
Ready to be
attain high
dazzled?
achievement, music, the arts, and athletics.
To ensure, hey, pay attention over there,
Was that
rowdy crowd.
We're paying attention?
All right,
What's going on behind us?
the black thing. To ensure that all students have access to appropriate curriculum and instruction that challenges them to successfully reach their potential.
We will enable all students to acquire the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed to be lifelong learners and productive members of a changing society. You didn't write that.
Yeah, but-
That's our
That's
mission
right.
No,
statement.
but
That's
that's
the
not,
mission
but that's not
statement.
the specific we're not talking about. If you have this, you can put underneath there, middle students, what are we gonna do to help the middle students reach their
Reach
potential?
their potential.
The economically disadvantaged students, what are we gonna do to have them reach their potential?
And
You
why
know,
can't you do it here too?
We could.
I mean, it's just a little tighter.
As a whole, Alan liked it, that hasn't really commented on it, but as a whole, the student body in Hartford will attain high achievement in academics, music, the arts, and athletics.
And I don't,
Yeah, but-
I personally like that one because I feel like student achievement encompasses the athletics and everything else, but you guys wanted to keep athletics in the high academic standards one. So I'm down with that, but I like the athletics in the achievement one.
I'm fine with that, I'm not sure I like the, on the whole.
Yeah.
I just, all students would.
Yeah, I think,
That's a bit in gold member, by the way, the preparation age project.
no idea.
I watched it. Yeah, I think my son. And Dr. Eagle had the
Oh,
preparation
the
age
different,
project.
okay.
Yeah. And the whole project felt good on the whole.
Now I've been joking a long time.
It was like a joke grenade. It took a while to go off.
All right, I don't care, do we wanna write them both up there? I don't wanna spend a lot of time, because I think it's, either one is fine.
I think that's
Okay,
fine.
the student body of New Hartford will attain high achievement in academics, music, the arts, and athletics.
That's almost like for the number two, that's almost like for the
Arts
high
is
school.
music, and I would just keep it as academics, arts, and athletics.
Okay, music's in the air.
I
Well,
mean,
you
when
say
we
all
were trying to.
students.
All right, now hold on here. Because I think that, you know, that all the groups are now melding into one. And really the idea here is for each group to kind of reflect upon what it is that we're trying to accomplish within this specific goal area. Now, yes, you can pull out some verbiage from your mission statement, but if you simply rip it from your mission statement, it doesn't have any teeth. It really doesn't show what you're trying to accomplish, the direction that you're trying to push the district. So for example, if you really want to sort of encompass all of this, you might want to write something to the effect that I'm just, I started writing this, and again, we'll hear what each group kind of came up with, but something to the effect of New Hartford is dedicated to ensuring all students succeed by providing, courses that will adequately prepare them for the jobs of the 21st century, by ensuring, they have qualified teachers and that, you're using data. So again, you're providing direction. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? You're writing this statement as if it's the future and it's now and that it's happened.
I think it's good. Should I read it more passionately?
We like, we're trying to sell our thing.
We should have you chair.
Okay.
All right, do me a favor though, once you have your statement, just put it on the sticky notes and we can put it up here. And
Yeah, with the big
then we
picture.
critique it, that's the fun part.
Oh.
Students will be enabled.
Oh, shoot.
Students will be enabled.
Spelling is like a-
Will be enabled. And you can
I
finish
will say
that.
I have a practice. My bad.
See recording.
To the analysis and attention of all students and to our dedicated year of all kinds of teachers.
Oh, curriculum, okay. C,
I see what you're saying, I just didn't.
R, R,
Trying to get it in like
I,
heart.
U,
Can you read the beginning of yours
L.
again, Jamie?
Sure, I wrote, New Hartford is dedicated to ensuring all students succeed and are fully college and career ready and can excel in a 21st century society by providing them
Well, that was at the very end, say, address the members of the change society. That's- That would be advice, right? We're not just educating for the 15 years, we're going to do it all.
to fulfill.
It could be arts, that's right.
I mean, teacher can be,
Is an action to meet the overarching goal.
you definitely could have that become a SMART goal. There is a way that you could actually weave the data points into your overarching statement. It could just be something that's simply saying, appropriately using data to ensure all students succeed. But it definitely could be, yes. And that could be a SMART goal where you say, in order to increase student achievement, we need to make better use of data.
Sorry.
So that becomes a SMART goal, and then you have your action items.
That's not active tense.
Right.
potentials, like they wanna go think ahead and get smart.
Well, like appropriate, I mean, I totally ran out of room with appropriate. And instruction, I mean, that's smart, that's pretty. Knuckles down, like
This is top shelf.
You gotta write them on the big one, you're still on the small one.
We're still trash.
Oh, yeah,
Hey, guys.
Ooh, somebody write that with their toes?
Hey, hey, hey.
Where's yours, Beth? You writing it?
We're still on the small
thinking.
pads, I'm not
Why don't
even-
you guys?
That's the socially economically challenged group.
Okay.
Okay, so I wrote the start of Jamie's thing. Read your beginning again, Jamie?
Where to put it here?
Well, now you're just gonna crib off of Jerry?
New Hartford is dedicated to ensuring all students
Yeah,
succeed.
stop.
Through challenging to fulfilling effective, through challenging to fulfilling effective data-driven instruction delivered by highly trained qualified teachers and staff. Actually, do this out of state order.
How about?
It's a miracle.
Okay, can I have your beginning again? I can't
Goes
even
exactly
remember.
I'm gonna help you out here.
Wow.
A chicken scratching.
That's all right, I can read it. His pen stinks.
Share that with you.
This is worth waiting for.
I'm ready to bed like that.
Oh, we're not laughing at you, Bob, sorry. Even though it seems like that because we're behind you, it really has nothing to do with the bubble. The first one was because we couldn't find the garbage cans, so really minor.
Okay.
And in conclusion,
Love it.
Score 7 years.
How many points do we get if we use ours? This is gonna be the winning team.
It may be the winning team. All right, let's see.
that's because you cribbed from Jay.
I know, really. Plagiarism.
Whatever. They could from the old thing,
Right.
So now here comes the fun part in which we critique.
and writing with their toes.
Not only are we going to critique, but we can pull elements that we like. But if you like one of these the best, we can obviously go with that one. So we're going to start off with this one. All students will be enabled to acquire the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed to be lifelong learners and productive members of a changing society.
That's our mission statement.
All right.
Our mission statement.
So this was ripped straight from the mission statement.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me,
We're proud of that.
so now,
I'm taking credit, I'm not taking any credit.
all right, let me ask you guys a question. Based on that statement, would you get an idea of what it is you're trying to accomplish?
No.
It's very Nike, just do it, I'm just saying.
Very broad.
It's broad.
Well, and broad is good, but not so broad that a teacher can't look and go, oh, okay, great.
It's not a goal, it's like, okay.
It's more of a mission, not a goal, it's more on top of everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More
Okay.
like space, the final.
Exactly.
Are there elements that you do like about the statement that maybe we could, pluck out and generate a statement
That
from?
all students part is really good.
All right, so let me use
I like the concept of attitudes.
all right,
You can change a kid's attitude.
Right.
I'm in.
Well, that's what
You
I'm
can
saying.
start at my house.
I like
All students.
lifelong
Across the
learner,
street
I like.
to mine.
you like lifelong learner.
Lifelong
Put a big X through everything else.
We're trying to do more than just educating for.
Okay.
the period they have.
But again, Bob, like, again, going back to lifelong learner almost seems like that goes, again, if we're gonna talk about putting athletics and extracurricular into high educational standards, that seems like that's encompassing that you're a lifelong learner because, it's sort of like the whole student. That's what I think. You know what I think? I think it's hard to delineate between, we're having a hard time delineating between what we wanna put in the student achievement and the high.
All right, so let me throw this idea out. Somewhere in your statement, you could have, and it could be right in the beginning, something to the effect of, New Hartford is dedicated to educating the whole student. And then we could meld in other things.
Say
What are your
something like
thoughts?
ensuring all students.
Well, then we can bring in those elements too. So I'm gonna put that over here as a possible, all right?
Going back to what Bob said, this number one goal, student achievement, doesn't say academic achievement.
Yeah, why
It says
don't we just
achievement.
combine one and two?
Why can't we just combine 1 and 2 student
I know,
achievement
I'm thinking
and
1
high
and 2
educational
can be combined.
standards?
Well, not only should
They're,
say
they're
no
saying
on
this goes
athletics,
under number
but-
1, and we're saying, no, it goes under 2, and what we wanna put under 2, they wanna put under 1, and
Yeah.
they're really both
I think you can
intertwined.
now one.
So under
All right,
both
so then
goals
why don't we
and
have this? We like the idea of educating the whole student, correct? We like the concept of having in this statement something to the effect of high academic standards. All right, let's move on to the next one. Again, the idea here is that we're plucking things out that we like. We don't want it to be so broad that people don't know what we're trying to accomplish, but in the same degree, we don't want it to be so specific. You're providing leadership, you're providing direction for the district to ensure that all students have access to appropriate curriculum instruction that challenges them to reach their full potential. Now again, the question I throw out there, and I'll do for each one of these, does this give you an idea of what's trying to be accomplished?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this group that wrote it ironically says yes. How weird is that?
We just thought
Full
that
potential.
under that, you could put in like the middle students, the economically challenged, getting those kids to reach their full potential, to work with them.
So we like full potential, correct?
And challenging them to, so it's, it's not everybody gets a trophy just for showing up. It's,
Sometimes challenging.
Or like 10 points in there.
Or like 42 people on the
All
front
right,
page.
so let's put challenging. We like full potential. Anything else that we like out of this one?
well, I think access is key.
Access?
Because, like Mary said, we can't force people to do things, but we have to ensure they have access to it.
Okay. Anything else?
I just don't think that's enough, that's all. Access isn't enough.
Okay.
We wrote the word appropriate too, because that encompasses all of the different levels.
So appropriate
That's
curriculum.
the, beginning level courses, that's
The
the middle
remedial, the
level,
advanced, the middle.
Okay.
all of the above. That's where the word appropriate came at it. It reaches all students.
Another wording for that might be like diverse learning experiences.
Okay. Yeah, Alan. We'll accept that, Alan.
There you go, finally something to like.
All right, let's go to this last one down here. All right. New Hartford is dedicated to ensuring all students succeed. I love that first part, man. That is gold right there. Yes. ensuring all students succeed and are college and career ready through challenging, fulfilling, and effective data-driven instruction delivered by highly trained and qualified teachers and staff.
I
All
mean,
right.
that one is just so good. Really hard to prove.
All right, we're using this one. Good night.
What if we
Well,
kinda,
Alright.
kinda took the first part of that, but then used some of like either the appropriate curriculum concept or the full potential concept?
You know, the one reason I like the DDI is that it's not really a SMART goal. It's part of the agenda for the state. It's part of the platform, using data to improve performance. And so we're aligning ourselves with the state platform.
Right.
Yeah, with the reform agenda. You know, I mean, it's not just this is where we need to go.
All right.
Right, I'm just saying maybe instead of challenging, fulfilling, effective.
So what we want to do now, we've identified sort of the elements from each one of these statements that we would like to try to hold on to. Now the challenging part is trying to bring these together into a statement that everybody is kind of agreeable on. So the first part of it, this was always the toughest for me in college, was that first sentence. Coming out of the starting gates. How do we want to phrase the beginning? Do we want it to start off by all students? Do we like the idea of New Hartford is dedicated? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm fine with New Hartford is dedicated.
You have all students in there,
Yeah.
ensuring all
Okay.
students, you have
All
that.
students succeed.
Yeah. And I just think
Potential.
career ready through appropriate curriculum and data-driven instruction.
How you could say New Hartford is dedicated to ensuring all students reach their full potential.
Through appropriate curriculum and data-driven
I
instruction.
like the challenge, I mean, I like more than appropriate, I like challenging, I mean, I'm open to changing those words, but I'd like adjective more.
Well, but we could say the appropriate curriculum and DDI, that challenges them to reach their full potential.
Isn't that challenging?
Somewhere in there, the students and the teachers and the whole community needs to understand that this is gonna be challenging for them, as well as for us.
Well, I thought, the concept, I think we were trying to get at was, to Paul's point, challenging is different depending on the ability of the student, so.
That's why it's gated.
Well, that's right. Well, I got you, yeah, absolutely.
So we were trying to flush that out a little bit.
Yeah.
Notice Jamie's just writing something down.
That's all
Listening
right.
to us.
Fine, that's good.
It's like so fluffy.
What's
Yeah.
fluffy? Which part's fluffy?
It's fluffy.
All right, you think this is too fluffy right
No,
here?
I don't.
I do, yeah.
Oh,
All right, we're trying to just pick all the pieces and throw them together into one statement.
Which part is fluffy?
I cannot believe I'm about to say this as a Democrat that I am, but like educating the whole students and reach their full potential, like, I just feel like that's so fluffy. Blah, 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 full potential, like blah, blah. Drives me nuts.
No, I get that, but this is then gonna focus on, all right, well, how do you do that? It's this, it's this, it's this.
But, yeah, but I think it depends on what comes after the buy part.
I actually agree with James' original statement, though, not combining one and two, separating standards versus achievement. I know you guys are on the other side of that, though.
I don't wanna end up where we're again with 22 pages of goals.
All right, so let me ask you a question. New Hartford is dedicated to educating the whole student to ensure all students succeed and reach their full potential. Do we want to say something to the effect of high academic standards next?
Didn't we want the concept of data-driven? instruction?
I will say this, I think that or a variation of that that's very specific about the curriculum should be under the education or academic standards, whatever you wanna call them, and then the achievement thing should be that whole student, arts, athletics, blah, blah, blah.
All agree.
I just wanna make sure that, you know, the student achievement.
Agree with me?
Huh?
All right, so are we saying that the last one down there, we got somebody who kind of seconded, is a little bit more in tune of what we would like to put forth
For academic achievement.
for academic achievement, correct?
For the second one, high educational standards, and then have the achievement be more about the whole student, the
No, the
athletics.
standards, you mean?
Yeah, this would be more standardy, and that would be more achievement-y, because that is like the whole student, the
You're
athletics,
switching it,
the
you're
arts.
So this,
That's
so
switching.
we're switching, okay? We
Yeah,
wanna-
I'm switching.
We want to bring back into the mix, just so I understand you correctly, we want to bring back into the mix high academic standards, and then having student achievement as well. Is that, am I reading you correctly?
That is my personal opinion.
All right,
I
because
think
then we're
we
going to
need
throw it out
have
to the larger group.
two goals, because I think that when you talk about curriculum development and data-driven instruction, I think that you need to offer all these opportunities, but that doesn't necessarily ensure, and the goals that necessarily drive success within those opportunities, I think are two separate things to me.
All right, what does the rest of the group think?
Well, I agree. I think we said it, we divided it before. We said one part you're talking about, however you, whatever the label is, one part is the student achievement, the curriculum, I agree, and the other part is the whole student, the lifelong learner, the
And
committed to arts and education.
I feel like it's the other way around. I feel like high educational standards are specific to curriculum. I feel like student achievement is really the broader arts, athletics, academic, whole student goal, to me.
Well, that may be the, I see students, this is how we measure ourselves. Student achievement, we don't measure ourselves by academic standards, we don't measure ourselves by safety.
All right, so let me ask you a
We measure
question.
ourselves by that.
Within
Right,
student
that's
achievement itself,
To curriculum.
there were certain elements that we
So I
identified.
agree.
In the sense that through our high standards and access to diverse curriculums, it's intended to prepare these students to be college and career ready, correct?
Right.
That in a nutshell is what we would like to accomplish and see happen, that all students graduate and are prepared to enter into the world.
That's the state reform agenda, right?
So let me ask you a question. Could we take what I just sort of, gave out and take that to be our statement? Because in a sense, it encompasses a lot of the things that we have put up there. Because right now, what we're doing is we're getting a little bit caught in the weeds.
Yeah.
And we're getting too caught up in the verbiage. And we're about 10 minutes over and I'm fine with staying. But it's really, I don't want to lead you guys and say, oh, that's it. And I do realize we're 10 minutes over. This is a very laborious process, as we kind of
So
understand.
what would the goal be? What was the goal you just said?
So again, what we're trying to articulate
Is it what you wrote?
is, we can scale this back.
It's more the black over there.
And it would be something to the effect of, ensure
We can't measure lifelong learning. And we can't measure productive members of a changing society. We can't.
Now, the thing about this, Ed, is that this statement right here is non-measurable.
Yeah, but the
The
SMART goal's
goal
up.
is measurable. That's the
Right.
difference between the two.
Understand?
Yes,
But this should
okay.
drive the SMART goals. In other words, there should be something in that statement that says, well, the SMART goal fits right in there.
Yeah, but if you say you want to be a lifelong learner, we could say that we want to increase student participation in extracurricular sports by X amount %, and that would be your measurable goal, to make sure that they're lifelong learners, or something like that.
Providing the
I mean,
opportunity.
Right.
When you talk about fluff, I feel like the term lifelong learner is.
Yeah. Productive members of a changing society, that's a parent's job. We gotta get them college and career ready.
getting them college and career ready, doesn't that include learning different skills or activities?
Sure.
So it includes all life,
Right.
Yeah.
lifelong learning, productive members,
Right,
everything
we're just
includes it
not
all.
saying. It's implied.
So it was the parents' job. It's, parents must say, here's my kid, take my kid for 8 hours a day, you do it.
I'm just freestyling here for a second, just trying to meld these ideas into one. All right. So we gotta refine that to a certain degree.
I'm sure our students
College and career ready.
succeed, our students succeed in our college.
Can we broaden courses? Because it's
Yeah,
more than
it's
just
just like-
courses.
Yeah.
It's a diverse learning environment, diverse,
Learning opportunities.
yeah,
What'd you say, Alan, diverse what?
Learning experiences.
yeah.
Diverse learning experiences, I like that.
Because you learn in sports, you learn
Right,
in art, you learn
right.
in music.
Are you trying to, is this still a statement to combine one and two?
I don't know, maybe.
I don't know, I'll tell you.
This is a laborious process. Ensure all students succeed in their college and career ready by providing access to diverse learning experiences, high academic standards. What's that?
I think it's a mistake to combine the first two, it's too broad. I think you have to have separate categories for education, for our curriculum, for lack of a better word, and achievement. I think our goals around curriculum and what curriculum looks like and the development of all of that, our teachers, the training, all of that is so, we are so focused on that and it's so a part of what we do that that has to be a separate category. I think the achievement of a student as a whole person is also its own separate goal that encompasses looking at specific students, looking at the athletic program, looking at all different elements of a student's participation in the school community.
So like everything is like non-academic, is what you're saying, really, Rika?
Well, and academic, but inclusive of everything, whereas I feel like the high educational standards are very specific to the curriculum. And I guess that's why I keep saying, I feel like that or any, except for that one, that these two really are talking about curriculum and student achievement goes to the whole student and the experience of those non-academic aspects of a student's inclusive of those non-academic experiences.
But I think what we're saying also is that we want high standards on the arts and athletics as well.
Which I think we are covering, but I think if you try to include athletic standards, anything that's part of the curriculum cycle should be in there. I think athletics goes along with extracurricular and all those aspects of how that enhances the student, from PTA experiences
So
to
like,
everything
we
else.
should just relabel high
Alright.
educational standards to high academic standards in what you're saying,
In my
doing
opinion.
this. And then we should have student achievement
Student
encompass
achievement being
arts, athletics,
about
and
that whole
academics.
student, yes, that
And then
whole.
go back to high academic standards.
Because I think we all
and
agree
say
that there's a holistic student thing that we wanna
Right,
capture.
and you're saying under student achievement, you wanna capture it there. We
Yes.
were struggling with
Maybe it's not student achievement. maybe
both
it's
one
all
and
the-
two when we were looking at our SWOT analysis
All right,
as
so
well.
we want student achievement and then we want high academic standards. And
So right now, we're working on high academic standards, correct?
I
No,
think
student
we
achievement's not.
I think that's pretty close.
Right,
and
that's what I'm saying.
It's pretty close.
I think
can
if we work
probably
on
wordsmith
student
that.
achievement,
Well,
All
why
right,
don't we-
so
I
let
can
me ask you a
cover
question.
high
Is it
academic
this right
standards.
here that we would like to change
yes.
to the academic standards?
Right. I like how it encompasses the things that we
right
Back there.
there.
and then we have to get the student achievement and encompass all three of those.
All right, so the wording on this one, we say is more in tune to the high academic standards, is dedicated to ensuring all students succeed in their college and career ready through challenging and fulfilling effective data-driven instruction delivered by highly trained and qualified teachers and staff. All right,
Yeah.
Are we,
I'm really, I just kind of think challenging, fulfilling, effective.
Fluff.
Well, it's a lot of adjectives. I like the appropriate, the concept of appropriate for the student.
I'm just concerned that somebody would not necessarily define appropriate as challenging. I would say, I'll go with challenging and appropriate, or appropriate and challenging.
Yeah, you can, I'll give you challenging if you give me appropriate.
I can go with that, I don't, wherever anybody else is, I'm good.
And I don't think you need to put data-driven instruction in that, that seems to me that's part of one of your SMART goals.
I would
that.
see, you know,
I like
the
that.
specific word DDI as being more of a SMART goal.
Right.
I think you could, you know, incorporate it in a more general sense, the word data as a means of, because if you're talking about high academic standards, you know, obviously the data is gonna help monitor the success of the students.
Why don't you
And
say-
whether or not the standards are too high or too low.
What if you said New Hartford is dedicated to ensuring all students succeed and are college and career ready through a challenging and appropriate, through a challenging and appropriate curriculum? What does that mean? And then
Increase use of data. to
correct,
drive that.
correct. And then put increases of data as one of your SMART goals.
Yeah, and that's what we're saying.
And is actually the highly trained, qualified teachers and staff, is that a SMART goal, or is that in
Now, there's nothing wrong with, you know,
I like
keeping that in there.
the?
I mean, because you're talking about high academic standards and how is that delivered, it's primarily by having those qualified teachers and investing in professional development. And the other thing that I'll tell you is that if you know, you're putting this out there as one of your goals for this year, and you know, as a teacher, if I were to look at this and say, all right, you know, they're dedicated to highly qualified teachers, you know, what type of professional development is going to be available? And, you know, in tight fiscal constraints, one of the first things that normally goes is professional development. So if you think that during the course of this academic year, there really is not going to be many opportunities for, you know, professional development, you know, you may want to think twice about having that statement put in there. But
No, that's going to
No.
be
We've
up to us.
provided- we've provided it
then
throughout
that's,
the session.
then that's perfect, and I just wanted to throw that out
It's a
there.
hallmark. That's us coming up to scratch, man.
All right, so now the question is now, we're about, it's 6:20, and I do realize that we're, you know, 20 minutes over. I'm more than happy to stay, but it's really, you know, incumbent upon you and what you want to do.
I'd like to get that done.
Yeah, can we try, because we're close with the student, with the, so that's
So that was gonna be my
high academic
suggestion.
standards. Now let's try to bang out student achievement,
All
now
right.
we got two of them done.
So what, you know, what I can do with this one is I can wordsmith this and I will draw up a couple different versions of it, but staying in tune with what exactly is here. And then I can kick it back to you, and then as a whole, you can decide which one of those you like the best.
Turn it in. Great.
All right. I like the phrase manimal better.
Man,
All right, so it sounds like we're all willing, and like I said, I'm here to help you guys, and I don't wanna just, you know, up and leave here. I wanna make sure that, you know, we're dedicated to this, and it is passed, but that's fine with me. So now we wanna tackle the student achievement piece, correct?
yeah,
We wanna ensure that we have that. All right, so now, what I hear is that we don't like fluff, although it's good with peanut butter. So the question is, in the realm of student achievement, what is it that we are attempting to accomplish in the sense of goals? Because again, if you're gonna change this into a goal category, I think that we've recognized one of the areas that is gonna be explored further, and that's the disparity between the socioeconomics.
And the reason why I see this as a less of a fluffy goal is because this is what we are always measured upon.
Absolutely.
Okay, so therefore, you know, this achievement part regarding how the students and what we're going to provide them with and what we're dedicated to them with, I think is something that can get more specific. I think ensure all students succeed and are college and career ready, period. Okay, I like that part of that,
All right.
okay? I mean, I don't know, I mean, it
Well,
sure
we
also.
have college and career writing, the other one.
I put that one, I folded it up foolishly. I need to hang that
We
somewhere
don't want
else.
redundancy.
Alright,
So we move this over here, student achievement. So these were the elements that we talked about for student achievement. So this one is academic standards. I'm gonna put, and you can't see it.
I don't remember.
Ah. So there's student achievement. Was that high academic standards?
I have, so I'll just give you a first run at it. and you
Sure.
guys can take it apart. And I'm sorry that it has college and career successes, so feel free to pick it up. All students are prepared for college and career success by access to a breadth of high-quality experiences in academics, athletics, extracurriculars, if you want to leave that out, and the arts. Period.
All right.
I would take out college and career ready, because we already have it in the
Yeah,
other place.
no,
No, no. Say it again, then.
all students are prepared for non-college and career success.
For success, for,
Academic.
Future.
well, not academic, it's not academic.
But then you can go,
Yeah, all
Athletic
students,
and-
so you can say, you can put in whatever qualifier you want. All students are prepared for fill-in-the-blank success by access to a breadth, B-R-E-A-D-T-H, of high-quality experiences, because I know we want to have like a standard connected to that, in, in academics, athletics, extracurriculars, and the arts. And you can do academics, athletics, and the arts, and assume that, but it doesn't really necessarily capture all of our extracurriculars of which there are many.
All right. What are your thoughts on that?
There. You can write it down.
So we write it?
Write it.
All right. So give it to me again.
All students are prepared for some kind of success to be defined later, success. You put it like there. By access to, you could say, a wide range of high-quality experiences in academics, athletics, extracurricular activities, and the arts.
What if we struck are prepared for success by? So all students just have access, we're gonna ensure that all students have access to a wide range of high quality, blah, blah, blah.
That's a student, no, well, that's a student achievement then.
Right, ensure that all students have access to a wide range of high-quality experiences in academic, athletics, and arts.
I just think that's a little too highbrow for this deal, I mean, a little too overreaching. I just jotted something down, this is, I know I'm trying to get down, but ensure that the high student achievement of the Hartford students, that's what we have today. You know, this is student achievement, we have high student achievements, is moved forward in academics, arts, and athletics. So it's recognizing that we're great, but it's recognizing that we need to move forward, you know, into the future with this.
That's not talking about that whole student thing we're talking about.
Yeah, well, in all, you know, in academics, athletics, and the arts.
For the concept of maintaining the high standards?
I would think you can move forward, because there's opportunity for improvement. I'd like to get that message that there's in our goal from the board, that there's a message that within student achievement, there's opportunity for improvement.
What about promote and maintain? Kurt?
Promote and
about
maintain.
continue instead of maintain, I don't like the word maintain.
Promote and continue. Sure.
I just don't like the word maintain.
And then
Sure,
what-
I got it, yeah.
So what are we
How about
promoting and
promote
maintaining?
and continue whole student success?
What are we
Improvement,
promoting?
promote is,
Success,
you know, is that.
or something like that?
I mean, there gets to the point where, you know, the goal should not be 100% graduation rate. Can't do it, right? It's like having 0 injuries in an industrial, you want 0 injuries, and that's what you strive for. but there comes a point where you have to say.
All right, what do you think of promote and continue a tradition of high academic achievement by providing access, and then we
It
can
would
have
have to
the
be
rest
high
of that.
student achievement.
Yeah.
By providing, I like that.
Yeah, access to high-quality
Providing
experiences
continue,
and.
No,
Provide
take out
and
academic,
continue-
high
What do you say,
student.
provide and continue a tradition of high student achievement by providing access to a wide range of high-quality experiences. Yeah, you have two highs, both of them.
Yeah. By providing access to a,
Well, just continue from,
yeah, okay.
All right.
This just in.
There.
Yeah.
Arrows work wonderfully. All right, how do we feel about the statement now?
I'm stuck in the weeds on experiences, high-quality experience in academics, the arts, and extracurricular activities, because athletics is an extracurricular activity.
but chess club is not an athletic.
That's extracurricular.
I think you gotta
Extracurricular
say-
I think you
clubs
gotta-
and everything.
I think you gotta say athletics.
Why?
I just think you have to bring it, because that's one of the issues that everyone's talking about. We wanna have a committee on athletics. I think we gotta put it in there.
It's such a big subset, what would you say, athletics and other extracurricular
Well, then,
activities?
were you gonna put the arts in there someplace?
It is in there. It's in there.
Athletics,
or arts.
the arts and other extracurricular activities?
The last word is arts.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about that, athletics, the arts, and other extracurricular activities?
Athletics, arts.
And other athletic. Marching band's gonna be all.
I'm just concerned the other extracurricular activities are gonna say about.
Yeah, I know.
It diminishes their activity
Why?
by using the word other.
All right, just, I mean, I think that's our biggest problem, we're all right.
And all extracurricular.
All,
That's all.
all. How about all?
All.
And all.
And
Instead of
all.
others.
Instead of other, put all.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
I don't fold out.
I think it's good, I think you can type them up and then get them out to all of them tomorrow, you have some time to put them over.
Okay.
Fiscal responsibility.
It's already done.
All right, two down.
Oh.
There you go.
Just kidding. It's done, it's here.
I'm like, what?
It's there. Additional finance, additional salaries, and responsibilities.
I would definitely take a look at that, because I thought it was well written.
Yeah,
I think that it definitely lends itself very nicely.
We'll add that one, you add it to it.
I will add it to it,
And
absolutely.
then what was the fourth one?
All right, so,
School finance and
Oh, community relations and state schools.
all right, so again, we don't have to turn all of these. Really, we want to focus in on what's the most crucial, what's the most pressing that we want to see unfold. And again, 5 is really the maximum. You don't have to say, well, we can have up to 5, so why don't we have up to 5? It's really deciding upon what is it that we need to have. And if you feel, for example, that, community relations is at the top of the list, that you feel there needs to be better communication, there's different avenues that you can go about
Well, I
doing
think
that.
safe school climate is more important than community relations.
For the spirit of time.
Well, in any event, guys, I don't mind this, I mean, we took some time to go through the process, now that we got the process down, taking those last 3 and getting them done in another session, I mean, I think we need to go through it, I mean, I think it's really bringing us together on stuff instead of just,
What I was gonna suggest was all those 3 are written here. And if he sends the 2 that we went through and these 3 and we get them out to you, then we can have another discussion on it.
Yeah.
You might decide, hey, these are great the way they
You may
phrased
just
them.
change the 3 that are here.
Yeah.
You may alter them all.
Yeah, but
And it's really dependent, it's really up to you guys.
I just like getting together and going through them.
Can I also suggest that maybe the exercise that we all did by ourselves to take all the different things on the SWAT thing and, I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory. Like something that maybe you could do, or you guys, somebody could do that too, and we could have put it, and then we can just come back and prioritize it maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, if you want me to take what you guys have generated and then plunk them into the various categories, is that what you're referring to? Yeah, that's definitely doable, absolutely.
And what about the SMART goals? I mean,
Well,
that's-
SMART goals are gonna come later, and again, that's really gonna fall into.
After we do this, yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
That's really where you, and you don't, you
But,
know, you don't necessarily.
but I
need to-
think that the process you described was two.
Yes.
Not like the collaborative process, you know what I mean? Is that the way we're going with that?
See, this is, you know, and I just want to point this out because you're definitely on the right track. This is the importance of goal setting at the beginning of the school year, is to have these types of conversations. Once you've formulated your goals, this is the common ground that the board now has.
Right.
And as you're making decisions throughout the year, you always want to go back and look at those goal sets and say, are the decisions that we're making in tune with the goals that we've outlined for the community at large? Next year, when you sit down to do this process, it gets a little bit easier, because now that you've gone through it, you see the steps that are involved, and again, you're gonna revisit the goals that you've established this year. But this is a bonding experience.
Yeah,
By far.
yeah, and this is what we do.
Absolutely.
You know,
is the
so this is
importance
what we
of
talk
school
about, this
service.
is what we make, this is what we monitor, you
And I
know?
don't see really the academic standards for the student achievement changing all that much next
No.
year. I mean, I don't think it's something we're gonna be like, we don't really
Oh,
care.
SMART
about
goals
this."
might change.
Yeah, the goals will change, but I don't see the.
So are we okay with the fiscal responsibility as it's drafted, or do we want?
Well, I'm gonna add it, and then, you know, that can be a conversation that you can have, because I think the way that it's written encompasses essentially what you're striving for. But if there's elements of that statement that you don't like, it can obviously be edited. And what I could even do, if you would like, is to draft another version of the same statement to see whether or not, you know, which one do you like better, kind of thing.
I would say, John, just to your point, of the three that are left, fiscal responsibility to me is the one that I'm good with as it stands. I don't think you could add too much there or take too much out of it. I'm sure the other two, I think, like, for example, the community relation, that really does seem to focus very outwardly as opposed to inwardly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we have agreed that we wanna do that. I'm not sure that the safe
Yeah.
school climate really captures everything that we wanna put in there.
Right, I
To me,
agree.
the fiscal responsibility one is, I'm down with that.
I think the safe school one's gonna be the one that needs the most work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the communication.
And we're not doing technology advanced school.
No, so we got those three left, so we get together and we discuss them and we go through the exercise.
All right. Sounds like we have a plan for the next step, which is good. So I will take all of this, as I did before, I will type it up, and I will get it back to you ASAP, because I'm going to Disney next week.
Hey, all
Yay.
right.
Very excited. So I will have this hopefully in your hands
How old are
at
your
some
kids?
point. 7
Yeah,
and
they have it.
3.
Oh,
The
they'll
best
enjoy
part of
that.
it, I'm not paying.
We found one good thing about autism down there.
What's that?
You get a pass for 5 people and cut in every line there is.
Jamie, we have food in the back if you'd like that.
I may.
Well, you can't have any other thoughts.
All right.
There's plenty of.
If I could just encourage you to fill out the eval again for me, that would be fantastic.
Thanks, man.
Hey,
Been
thank
great.
you. I like coming out. You guys are fun to work with.